Chapter 646. Old acquaintances meet. The mountains overlapped, and the land seemed like dragon ridges pressed together. On one such ridge, Guan stood in front of a cliff, while an Exian was meditating and cultivating nearby. Has it already begun? Guan looked into the distance, thinking this way. It had been 7,000 years since he had given the erase scroll to Zhang Qiong. 7,000 years had passed, and that mysterious and eerie force had finally seeped into the Great Thousand World. Its method of infiltration was not through a world gate but directly into the Tao rules of the Great Thousand World. This was an unstoppable invasion method, as its infiltration trajectory couldn't be fully tracked, at least not by the celestial spirit god. On the continent where Guan was, he saw a bloodline member of the Long family. This youth was named Long Lin, whose best friend was invaded by the eerie force, and he would become increasingly jealous and violent in the future, causing many troubles in Long Lin's life. Guan, however, had no intention of intervening. Long Lin was too distant in relation, equivalent to a stranger. If he were to protect every descendant of the Long family, it would be too exhausting, as the bloodline had already surpassed 1 billion in number, though most had changed names. Although the youth named Yang Nian might take a wrong path, he wouldn't pose a threat to Long Lin's life. Even without the invasion of the eerie force, it was not uncommon in the human world for brothers and best friends to destroy each other out of jealousy. Master, another calamity befalls the human world? And Xin's voice rang out, and Guan turned his head, seeing her opening her eyes with tightly furrowed brows. Guan inquired, "What did you see?" S.E.A. The Novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. My immortal emperor's eye senses a disturbingly evil force, and my future self also informed me that the human world would face unprecedented tribulations soon, and this disaster will also cover other Great Thousand Worlds. An Exian spoke worriedly. Although her future self was manifested through karmic evolution and might not prove true, it still hinted at major trends in the future. Guan nodded slightly, quite satisfied with Xin's cultivation results. And Xin's immortal emperor's eye not only could devour power to transform it into her own, but also borrow strength from her past and future selves. This was somewhat similar to the celestial dragon reincarnation Dharma aspect. However, the future self she summoned was formed from karma. Once the future self appeared, its associated future would vanish, making the karmic ties here complex. But through summoning her future self, she could gain predictions on the future trends of the cosmos. In addition, the immortal emperor's eye inherently possessed a powerful suppressive force. At the scene, when she sparred with Tian Hao, she pulled Tian Hao into an illusion realm, forcefully crushing his Tao heart. In the immortal emperor's eye's illusion realm, Tian Hao's senses were misled, perceiving everything encountered inside as real occurrences. The immortal emperor's eye contained immense power, which would aid an Exian to grow stronger. Even if an Exian did not become a Taoist emperor, with the immortal emperor's eye, she could still contend with a Taoist emperor. Indeed, the forthcoming calamities will indeed arrive at the various Great Thousand Worlds. However, the scope of this disaster is boundless and will surely attract stronger beings for suppression, so you needn't worry too much, Guan responded. Thinking about the Taoist emperor, his thoughts couldn't help but drift to the path of the great Tao. More of his old friends began to pursue the Taoist emperor. Ji Xiaoyu, Zhang Buku, Tian Hao, Zhu Shi. The path of the great Tao was far broader than the Great Thousand World, with countless cultivators striving within. Meeting these few would not be easy. However, Ji Xiaoyu did meet Xiao Lan, all thanks to Yuan Songzi's efforts. Yuan Songzi aimed to unite the strengths of the celestial spirit great world, lending mutual assistance. Guan watched over Ji Xiaoyu and Xiao Lan while guiding an Exian in comprehending the Tao better. Whether Xin's attention was diverted or not was unclear, but she soon became absorbed in enlightenment, forgetting the outside world. In the dim cosmic void, an desolate meteor quietly hovered, with a monastery perched upon its surface. In a hall, cultivators of the Tao court were meditating before a gigantic Buddha statue. Xiao Lan gazed at the statue, lost in thought. This Buddha is from Ling Mountain. The owner of this monastery was once a devotee of Ling Mountain. In the heart of a Buddhist cultivator, Ling Mountain is the supreme holy land. A voice came, interrupting Xiao Lan's thoughts. Xiao Lan turned her head, quickly getting up to salute. The meticulously dressed and regal Ji Xiaoyu approached her. Now, Ji Xiaoyu mostly walked in the identity of the reincarnation Tao Emperor. Her cultivation level might not match Yuan Songzi, but Yuan Songzi treated her with respect, addressing her as fellow Taoist, which garnered significant respect from the Tao court's talents for her. Senior, is Ling Mountain truly formidable? Where is it? Xiaolan asked curiously. Ever since meeting the Reincarnation Tao Emperor, the Reincarnation Tao Emperor had always clarified her doubts, treating her with much kindness, fostering strong goodwill in her towards the Reincarnation Tao Emperor. Ji Xiaoyu turned her gaze back to the great Buddha statue, saying, Ling Mountain is elusive, I've only heard about it, but what can be confirmed is Ling Mountain stands above the Great Thousand World, and the capabilities of Ling Mountain's various Buddhas are beyond our imagination. Indeed, Ling Mountain is formidable. In the Great Thousand World where I originated, there once appeared a disciple from Ling Mountain's Buddhist sect, who single-handedly saved countless beings and suppressed the outer heaven evil demon. Even after his departure, many legends about him persisted in the human world. Yuan Songzi walked over, stroking his beard with a smile, his gaze towards the great Buddha statue filled with nostalgia. Xiaolan was filled with yearning. This monastery, though ownerless, could provide them shelter, and it was built by a mere believer of Ling Mountain. How mighty must the Buddhas of Ling Mountain be? 4 years on the path of the great Tao, Xiaolan's horizons had vastly widened. Yet, wonder she heard continued to leave her in awe. Yuan Songzi turned to Ji Xiaoyu, asking, Have you chosen the next opponent? The forces on the path of the great Tao were more numerous than the stars of the Great Thousand World. Many forces, like the Tao court, came to create a Taoist emperor, so they would establish contacts, setting a time and place for combat resourced by each one's capabilities without forming enmity among the forces. Both Ji Xiaoyu and Xiaolan were competing to become a Taoist emperor, but Ji Xiaoyu had a higher cultivation level, so she led the way, with the Tao court currently supporting her, enabling Xiaolan to gain experience more easily. Yes, a prodigy from Qianxia Great World whose cultivation level is very similar to mine, Ji Xiaoyu answered, her tone calm. Yuan Songzi was about to continue questioning when suddenly the entire hall began to tremble. An overwhelming pressure emanated from outside the monastery, startling the meditating cultivators from the Tao court, causing them to stand up, ready themselves tensely. Yuan Songzi frowned, projecting his divine sense towards the Tao void. He saw 2 figures battling deep in the void, colliding like 2 brilliant suns, causing the Tao rules to tremble, and the immense pressure made the meteor they sat upon tremble incessantly. Is that? It seemed Yuan Songzi recognized one of them, his expression turning exceptionally grim. The Tao court cultivators became even more tense. When Yuan Songzi initially confronted immortal gods, he never showed such an expression. Could there be a presence outside more terrifying than the immortal gods? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 647. 5 trillion years lifespan. Do you know who is fighting outside, senior? Ji Xiaoyu noticed Yuan Songzi's expression and couldn't help but ask. She appeared calm, but inside she felt terrified. Just feeling the momentum of the battle from afar gave her a dreadful sense of being turned to dust. On the path of the great Tao, daring to fight so recklessly, these are indeed conceited individuals, for the path harbors many dangers, and making too much noise only invites trouble. Her cooperation with the Tao court was precisely to have them help set up a barrier to prevent the aura of her battles with other Tianjiao from leaking. Yuan Songzi took a deep breath and said, One of them comes from ascending to yellow heaven, named Zhou Jia. This person has killed countless people and proves the Tao with killing intent. If he detects our aura, we will all die. Upon hearing this, everyone was alarmed. Even Xiaolan couldn't remain calm. Ji Xiaoyu frowned. She knew of ascending to yellow heaven, a terrifying Taoist lineage, even involving reincarnation. However, Zhou Jia's opponent is also very strong. Perhaps they will leave soon, so there's no need to panic. After all, the formation in this monastery is quite exquisite, Yuan Songzi continued, his words slightly easing the tension among the crowd, though no one dared to let their guard down. Xiaolan looked at everyone, feeling deeply moved. These seniors hold high positions in the celestial spirit great world, essentially wielding the power of life and death over all beings. Yet on the path of the great Tao, they are as insignificant as dust, being extremely cautious and careful. Everyone held their breath, not daring to speak, fearing even a sound might disturb the terrifying presence outside. However, the oppressive force of the battle drew closer, as if the fighting parties were approaching, and even Yuan Songzi began to sweat on his forehead. Suddenly, the oppressive force rushed into the distance and disappeared in an instant, making everyone even more tense. For a long time, only after more than half an hour did everyone finally relax, believing the opponents had left. They gathered around Yuan Songzi, inquiring about the origins of ascending to yellow heaven. Ji Xiaoyu looked at Xiaolan, her eyes complex, unsure of her thoughts. Time flies, and the years go by swiftly. As strange forces invaded the celestial spirit great world, more and more beings became violent, leading to increasing conflicts in the human world. This did not affect Guan's life. He continued to enjoy his leisurely years, only occasionally diverting his focus to watch over old friends, including those on the path of the Great Tao. If they faced danger, he would help protect them, but he made it seem like their own luck. Years passed quickly. After 10,000 years, the human world completely shed its cloak of peace, with conflicts arising everywhere. Even the Chenkuan sect went to war with surrounding forces. The boundless celestial vault began to show lingering clouds. Guan still did not intervene to change anything. Another 10,000 years passed. That late summer, just past noon, Guan walked through the woods, pulling up his attribute panel for a check. Name, Guan. Lifespan, 161, 845/5, 048, 752, 108, 241. Physique, primordial reincarnation undying body. Cultivation level, Miaozhen Daluo immortal realm perfection. 5 trillion years of life expectancy. He hesitated whether to break through. The last breakthrough cost 1.8 trillion years of life. He feared 5 trillion wouldn't suffice for the perfection realm of the next great realm. Guan pondered, pacing leisurely through the woods, with the breeze gently stirring his robes. Looking up, the celestial vault between the leaves appeared dim, more like dusk than noon. After a while, Guan stopped walking. He stood by a small river, with a figure kneeling across it. It was Emperor Tianhong. Emperor Tianhong had been kneeling here for over 50,000 years, yet he seemed without the slightest sign of decline. His long beard touching the ground, face clear. Were it not for his knees sunk deep in the soil, one might not believe he had knelt so long. Though he engaged in no chi absorption cultivation, his cultivation level broke through to the Tao Void profound immortal realm, purely through enlightenment. Notably, his breakthrough involved no crossing the tribulation nor the slightest disturbance. After all these years of kneeling, what is your greatest realization? Guan's voice reached Emperor Tianhong's ear, making him open his eyes suddenly. Upon seeing Guan, he was lost in a daze. Though he had never met Guan before, for some reason, seeing Guan for the first time, he felt the other was the supporting Tao sword venerable. To him, Guan's appearance seemed perfect, and though Guan's aura was not overpowering, it gave a sense of all-embracing magnanimity. Emperor Tianhong once believed his Tao heart was tempered through countless trials, immune to strong emotions, yet he couldn't suppress the surge of excitement from his heart at this moment. Trembling all over, he couldn't articulate his complex emotions. Seeing Emperor Tianhong so overwhelmed, Guan smiled gently, his smile like a spring breeze blowing into Emperor Tianhong's heart, dissolving his tension and excitement. Emperor Tianhong took a deep breath, trying to calm himself, and cautiously said, "My greatest realization is that the strongest Taoist technique is not found in sects but pervades the world, everywhere in nature. Perhaps Wuxi's name is meant to guide all beings?" Upon finishing, Emperor Tianhong's heart was in his throat. A frayed head offended the supporting Tao sword venerable. The longer head knelt, the more he revered Guan, sensing it was Guan guiding him to enlightenment. Guan chuckled, "Perhaps so, everyone has their own understanding. Do you wish to take me as your master?" Emperor Tianhong's eyes widened with excitement. "Sword venerable, I do. I very much want to. Will you accept me?" Guan raised his right hand, and a sword flew from his palm, swiftly enlarging, its point facing upward, hovering before him. The sword was exquisite, radiating a faint silver glow, with what seemed like stars adorning it. "This is the Tao treasure of Wuxi, named the Longevity Sword. You may use it to save this human world. When you become a savior, return the sword, and then decide whether you wish to be my disciple." As Guan introduced the sword, the Longevity Sword flew to Emperor Tianhong. Emperor Tianhong could feel the vast Tao intent within the sword, yet he wasn't captivated, instead directing his attention to Guan, urgently saying, "I can decide now, willing to be your disciple." Guan replied meaningfully, "When you have the highest fame and power, and discern your own destiny pattern, then make your decision. There's no rush. If you are willing by then, I will accept you." Hearing this, Emperor Tianhong calmed down. "Now go." Guan continued, upon which Emperor Tianhong stood up, clutching the longevity sword. In an instant, a vast memory surged into his mind, leaving him stunned. Sar the Novel Fire. Net ** website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Seeing this, Guan crossed the small river, passing by him. Go for the breakthrough after all. With his back to Emperor Tianhong, Guan thought silently. He followed his thoughts with anticipation. What lies beyond the Miaozhen Daluo immortal realm? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 648, Endless Dao Mountain. After parting with Emperor Tianhong, Guan took a trip to the Taitsong continent, picking medicinal herbs at the mountain god temple, then went alone into the uninhabited mountains and forests, far away from the mundane world. He sat under a tree and activated the lifespan breakthrough. You have activated the lifespan breakthrough function. Based on your current realm, the following breakthrough locations have been selected for you. 1. Path of the Great Tao. 2. War Spirit Holy Mansion. 3. Taiwei Earth Core. 4. Ling Mountain. 5. River of Destiny. 6. Endless Dao Mountain. Sarch * The Novel Fire. Net * website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. 7. Primordial Emperor Domain. 8. Profound Abyss Divine Pool. 9. Supreme Origin Forest. Looking at the options in front of him, Guan frowned slightly. He didn't see the desperate celestial tomb. He was still planning to find a way to rescue the sins within the desperate celestial tomb after breaking through. In his view, when he breaks through again, he should have the strength to see through the desperate celestial tomb. Don't mention Miaozhen Daluo Immortal. Even ordinary heaven-opening Daluo Immortals are rarely seen. Breaking through to a higher realm, even if he's not the strongest, he should be among the stronger existences within the Great Tao. After saving the sins, he could further investigate Fairy Yao Xian's causality through them, thereby resolving the obsessions left by the Emperor of Eternal Life. These matters, to Guan, didn't feel troublesome, but rather filled him with anticipation. In becoming stronger through cultivation, one must have opportunities to demonstrate. Could it be because the desperate celestial tomb cannot withstand my breakthrough, and these places can, that the celestial tomb did not appear? Guan suddenly had a speculation. If so, could it be inferred that these 9 places possess power beyond the Miaozhen Daluo Immortal? Even if they don't, these places can still nurture stronger Daluo Immortals, something beyond the capability of the Celestial Spirit Great World. Don't mention Daluo Immortals. The Celestial Spirit Great World can't even nurture Golden Immortals. Guan silently pondered, and after some thought, he chose Endless Dao Mountain. The name alone sounded profound and elusive, and it provided better concealment. To be teleported to Endless Dao Mountain will consume 10 billion years of lifespan. Do you wish to continue? Continue. An unfamiliar sensation surged forth, causing him to instinctively close his eyes, and his senses followed suit, losing function. After a while, he felt his feet touch the ground, and he immediately opened his eyes, almost instantly activating the lifespan barrier. After setting up the lifespan barrier, he had time to observe the environment. As far as the eye could see, the celestial vault was dim as the void of the universe, with towering mountains standing on the earth, rising and falling, their ends unseen, and the number of peaks uncountable. Even at his Miaozhen Daluo immortal realm perfection state, Guan could not see the boundaries of this world. Is this another place in an infinitely expanding universe and earth? He observed that every mountain around him contained an immense Tao intent, as if nurturing a great Tao. The oppressive atmosphere of the world made the endless Tao mountain appear like majestic deities in the darkness, exuding a sense of vastness and magnitude. The mountain under Guan's feet was extraordinarily huge. Even standing on the summit felt like standing on a vast continent. Its height exceeded the distance from the 9 spirit continents' ground to outer heaven. The mountain he stood upon wasn't even the highest Tao mountain. In the distance stood towering mountains like heavenly barriers, imposing to the extreme. Endless Tao Mountain, I wonder how far it is from the Great Thousand World, thought Guan curiously, as he had never heard of the Endless Tao Mountain before. The more mysterious and powerful places there were, the happier Guan felt. If the end of the Great Tao were so easy to reach, the joy of cultivation would diminish significantly. Guan sat down cross-legged and then called up the attribute panel. First, he worked to enhance his physique, as it had been a while since he made any improvements. Guan invested 100 billion years of lifespan directly, but the primordial reincarnation undying body did not transform. He continued investing. Ultimately, after spending a total of 400 billion years of lifespan, the primordial reincarnation undying body ascended to the primordial Tao creation body. Vast amounts of Tao spiritual qi gathered, causing the ground beneath Guan's feet to light up with Tao light, confined within the barrier, while the mountain's surface outside the barrier exhibited no changes for the time being. Soon, Guan became engrossed in the inheritance. The primordial Tao creation body retained the features of the previous physique, undying through reincarnation, ferocious mana, and the capability to create new Great Tao. Indeed, Great Tao independent of the 3,000 Great Tao. It's based on personal mana and physical strength. Just like before, no matter how mighty the transformation, Guan completed the transformation in less than an hour. He opened his eyes, a glint of light flashing within them. Create a Tao? He suddenly thought, with countless Great Tao, even he couldn't ascertain the exact number. Could some Great Tao have been created by cultivators? This hypothesis could not be answered for the time being, so he turned his gaze to the cultivation techniques in the attribute panel. Next was the enhancement of the main cultivation technique. Guan invested 100 billion years of lifespan into the Taoist Dominator skill. Finally, after expending nearly 350 billion years of lifespan, he upgraded the Taoist Dominator skill to the Myriad Tao Extinction skill. The Myriad Tao Extinction skill shifted from the previous vastness to one filled with slaughter traits, with domination leading to extinction, leaving not a trace, ultimately leaving only oneself, surpassing the Great Tao. An hour later, Guan continued upgrading. Sun and Moon Selfless Divine Tao ascended to Tao Qi Eternal Divine Sense, consuming nearly 300 billion years of lifespan. This was Guan's main reliance for hiding cultivation level and aura. He wouldn't neglect it. The upgrades continued. Taoless Celestial Net Step ascended to Great Primordial Celestial Net Step, consuming nearly 400 billion years of lifespan. Hongmeng Void Golden Body ascended to Great Tao Formless Body, consuming 300 billion years of lifespan. This secret skill evolved from the Demon Shadow Divine skill, capable of transformation and isolating causality and fate deductions, greatly aiding Guan in remaining concealed. Another hour passed. Guan mastered the Great Tao Formless Body. Even without activating the secret skill, his physical body possessed the capability to avoid being deduced, and this body could also elevate his aura and suppression, serving as a suppressive divine skill. Having completed the conventional enhancements, he had to consider battle methods next. According to past conventions, Guan should improve his sword Tao, but now he wanted to enhance the Immortal Emperor's Eye. The Immortal Emperor's Eye was too powerful for him to give up, but it would provoke the Celestial Court's suspicion. He must upgrade the Immortal Emperor's Eye to a stronger stage to avoid their detection. While Guan contemplated, changes emerged in the tumultuous Endless Tao Mountain. Due to Guan's continuous upgrades of Taoist techniques, the Tao rules in the heavens and earth began having strange alterations, causing gales to roar, lightning to flash, thunder to rumble, and some Tao mountains to faintly tremble. Before, there had been no sign of any living being. But now they appeared. Guan looked in a direction, spotting a massive black silhouette on the summit of a majestic Tao mountain far away. The figure was humanoid, standing atop the peak, mysterious to the extreme, akin to an ancient demon god. He couldn't use lifespan detection on it, indicating the other party had not revealed their true self. Even so, the other party's aura sent chills through his heart. Miao Zhen Daluo Immortal. And not at the early stage. Guan merely glanced over and paid no mind. With the lifespan barrier in place, it would be difficult for the other party to discover him. He began to invest lifespan into the Immortal Emperor's Eye. Right from the start, it was 100 billion years of lifespan. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 649. Breakthrough to Dao Extreme Daluo Immortal. You invested 10 billion years of lifespan into cultivating the Immortal Emperor's Eye. You have spent 1 billion years cultivating the Immortal Emperor's Eye, and your understanding of the great Tao of cause and effect has improved. You have spent 10 billion years cultivating the Immortal Emperor's Eye, and your understanding of the great Tao of illusion and reality has improved. You have spent 50 billion years cultivating the Immortal Emperor's Eye, and the power of your Immortal Emperor's Eye has grown stronger. Notifications flashed before Guan's eyes, but a full 10 billion years of lifespan was not enough to transform the Immortal Emperor's Eye. Guan was not surprised. After all, this was a formidable divine skill feared by the Celestial Court. He continued to invest lifespan, still in increments of 10 billion years. Failure. Another 10 billion years. Guan had over 400 billion years of lifespan remaining, so 10 billion years was nothing to him. Continuous failures. Continuous investment. When the invested lifespan exceeded 1,000 billion years, a subtle change appeared in Guan's eyes. It wasn't until the Immortal Emperor's Eye advanced that he finally breathed a sigh of relief. A total of 1,800 billion years of lifespan was consumed, and the Immortal Emperor's Eye advanced to become the Absolute Void Eye. An endless stream of memories poured into Guan's mind, causing him to close his eyes and immerse himself in them, as if the vast information of the 3,000 great Tao rushed into his mind, plunging even someone with a perfection in the Miaozhen Daluo immortal realm into chaos. The Absolute Void Eye not only can manipulate reality and illusion but can also create them. An almost omnipotent eye whose creations vanish when the user's mana is exhausted. In battle, it can turn an opponent's divine skills, spells, and even mana into nothingness. This is not only suppression against the weak, but even against those with higher cultivation levels, it exerts a certain degree of suppression. The great Tao phenomena caused by the Absolute Void Eye far exceed those from before, with the endless Tao mountains still ravaged by fierce winds, and silhouettes appearing consecutively on the distant Tao mountain. Even a figure shrouded in grey mist appeared atop a nearby Tao mountain, not revealing their true form. This grey mist figure looked up at the dark celestial vault, seemingly searching for the source of the phenomenon, unaware that the source was right beside him on the neighboring Tao mountain. The two Tao mountains were connected, but the distance between their peaks spanned tens of millions of miles. A distance insurmountable in a lifetime for mortals, but merely a step away for the grey mist figure. Time passed quickly. An hour later. Guan opened his eyes, his purple pupils transformed into gold and red, enhancing his oppressive presence. His Absolute Void Eye focused first on the grey mist figure atop the distant mountain peak. Even at such close range, Guan could not perform lifespan detection on him, as if some force protected the cultivators in this world. However, even without lifespan detection, Guan could perceive the other's cultivation level. Late stage of celestial creation Daluo Immortal Realm. A heaven-opening Daluo Immortal can cultivate in the endless Tao mountain, prompting Guan to suddenly harbor thoughts. After the breakthrough, should I stay here and observe for a while? First, accomplish the breakthrough and see how strong he becomes. Guan reopened his attribute panel. Aside from the consumption in lifespan evolution, the lifespan barrier had also been continuously consuming lifespan, leaving him with more than 450 billion years of lifespan. He began investing lifespan into his cultivation level. You cultivate the Qi absorption for 2 billion years, and use the great achievement of the Myriad Dao Extinction skill to forcefully impact the Dao Extreme Daluo Immortal Realm, beginning to cross the tribulation, but fail to survive the infinite celestial void Great Tribulation, resulting in attributio. You cultivate the Qi absorption for 4 billion years, and use the great achievement of the Myriad Dao Extinction skill to forcefully impact the Dao Extreme Daluo Immortal Realm, beginning to cross the tribulation, but fail to survive the infinite celestial void Great Tribulation, resulting in attributio. Why does it take 2 billion years just for one tribulation? And that's even after I've improved my Taoist techniques and physique. Guan suddenly felt that it might be challenging to reach the perfection realm of the next great realm this time. In any case, first achieve this so-called Dao Extreme Daluo Immortal. 100 billion years only resulted in 5 breakthroughs, and after the 5 breakthroughs failed, Guan directly invested 1,000 billion years of lifespan. Notifications kept popping up, all indicating failure. 50 tribulations, all ending in failure. Guan continued to invest. 1,000 billion years followed by another 1,000 billion years. Failure. 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 Guan focused intensely, the absolute void eye flashing with a terrifying gaze. The great Tao phenomenon of the endless Tao mountain began to weaken. The figures standing atop the mountain peaks disappeared consecutively, though some remained observing. The gray mist figure on the nearby Tao mountain did not vanish. He looked around, never settling his gaze on the Tao mountain where Guan stood. Guan no longer paid attention to him, focusing entirely on the notifications before him. After failing with 10,000 billion years of lifespan, he realized the problem was significant. Is it really this difficult to break through to Tao Extreme Daluo Immortal? Or is the infinite celestial void Great Tribulation more terrifying than he imagined? As Guan pondered, he continued to invest lifespan. Yet, after throwing in a second 10,000 billion years of lifespan, there was still no sign of success. He frowned slightly and persisted in investing more. After a while, he finally succeeded in breaking through. S.E.A. the novel_fire. Et website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. You cultivate the chi absorption for 58 billion years, and use the great achievement of the myriad Tao extinction skill to forcefully impact the Tao Extreme Daluo Immortal realm, beginning to cross the tribulation, surviving the infinite celestial void Great Tribulation, and succeeding in crossing the tribulation. Your cultivation level breaks through to the early stage of the Tao Extreme Daluo Immortal realm. You cultivate the chi absorption for 10 billion years, and your cultivation level increases. As the notification fell, the lifespan barrier activated again, far more majestic than before. The Tao spiritual chi engulfed Guan, immersing him in the strong light of the great Tao. Just reaching the early stage cost Guan 23,000 billion years of lifespan. He dared not continue to break through. After all, he still needed to save lifespan for the lifespan barrier. First achieve the Tao Extreme Daluo Immortal. Boom! The dark celestial vault suddenly exploded with a thunderous sound, akin to a great dragon coiling in the heavens, larger than any mountain ridge between heaven and earth, alarming the cultivators practicing within the Tao mountains. In Guan's perception, the auras of more and more cultivators emerged, as if the night sky was illuminated and the stars appeared. He was astounded. Just how many powerful beings are hidden here? Even the weakest aura belonged to a heaven-balancing golden immortal, with most being Tai Ching golden immortals, and several auras caused his heart to palpitate. They must be Tao Extreme Daluo Immortals. Could this endless Tao mountain be some holy land for enlightenment? Guan pondered, seeing that no one was paying attention to the Tao mountain he resided on, sinking his consciousness into the inherited memories. Tao Extreme Daluo Immortal, the pinnacle of the Daluo Tao fruit, is the ultimate limit beings can reach. To become stronger, one cannot rely anymore on cultivation and enlightenment but must create and develop one's great Tao. In a sense, Tao Extreme Daluo Immortal is the culmination of the immortal Tao. Beyond that, it's not the immortal Tao but the great Tao. Guan's Daluo Tao fruit began imprinting Tao Extreme patterns, with each pattern containing indelible mysteries. As long as the Tao Extreme patterns exist, the Tao Extreme Daluo Immortal will not fall, and the Tao Extreme patterns are not merely on the Tao fruit but interwoven within the infinite realm of the great Tao. Even if the Daluo Tao fruit is destroyed, resurrection is possible, though with one less Tao Extreme pattern upon revival. There are a total of 49 Tao Extreme patterns, meaning the Tao Extreme Daluo Immortal can resurrect 49 times. Even if dissipated, they can be reborn. A Tao Extreme Daluo Immortal with Tao Extreme patterns is nearly an immortal existence. To annihilate a Tao Extreme Daluo Immortal completely is exceedingly difficult. Even if slain, they can revive. One can only imagine the despair faced against a Tao Extreme Daluo Immortal. Moreover, Guan's mana is also transforming, evolving toward the ultimate power of the immortal Tao. During this process, his life-bound great divine power longevity true words is undergoing a qualitative transformation. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 650. Causeless Realm. As Guan completed the formation of 49 Tao Extreme patterns, his consciousness awoke from the state of enlightenment, and he could feel an earth-shattering transformation within himself. He had transformed into a Tao Extreme Daluo Immortal. Within the barrier was filled with the intense light of the great Tao, and outside, The dark celestial vault gleamed with purple-red iridescence, both bewitching and terrifying. Guan could sense that the number of cultivators alarmed by this exceeded 100,000, and it was still rising. Nearby, there were also a few Dao mountains where the presence of cultivators emerged, but compared to the endless Dao mountain, these figures were far less numerous than the number of Dao mountains. After attaining the Dao Extreme Daluo Immortal, Guan's divine sense also underwent a qualitative change. He could feel the end of the endless Dao mountain. At this moment, new Dao mountains were still forming on the fringes, continuously expanding this world. The distant end he could see was beyond the reach of even Miaojin Daluo Immortal, and with the ongoing birth of Dao mountains, the name Endless Dao Mountain was truly deserving. Before his breakthrough, the speculation was correct. There indeed existed several Dao Extreme Daluo Immortals in the Endless Dao Mountain. Their Dao Mountain stood as the tallest among them, while the Dao Mountain beneath Guan's feet was like a small hill before empty Tai in comparison, and the Dao intent contained in those massive Dao mountains was majestic. Even the most mediocre mortal spirit could ascend to immortality while residing on such Dao mountains. Furthermore, Guan also felt various heavenly court destinies here, similar to the destinies of the celestial spirit god and the 72 immortals of the Golden Cave, even possessing the destiny of a Dao Extreme Daluo Immortal. Guan had a sense of engaging with a high-level map, becoming even more interested in the endless Dao mountain. The breakthrough was not yet over. His cultivation level continued to rise, and the anomaly brought to the endless Dao mountain began to wane. The elusive Dao rules writhed like a startled swarm of dragons, and the terrifying might of the Dao caused the supposedly unshakable Dao mountains to tremble. Guan summoned his attribute panel to examine. During the breakthrough process, the lifespan barrier consumed 3 trillion years of lifespan, which was not a small number. Guan continued to invest his lifespan into his cultivation level. Any breakthrough was worth it. Soon, he once again seized the opportunity for a breakthrough. Consuming 800 million years of lifespan, he advanced to the mid-stage of the Dao Extreme Daluo Immortal realm. The Dao rules in the world once again raged violently, intertwining heavenly thunders that could destroy the Great Thousand World, shifting colors, magnificent and mysterious. This beauty cannot mask their dangerous aura. From the early to mid-stage of a Dao Extreme Daluo Immortal, Guan didn't need to immerse himself in inheritance. He began to observe the endless Dao mountain. Attaining Dao Extreme Daluo Immortal, his ability of deduction also rapidly strengthened. He no longer needed to cast spells or use divine skills or the power of the great Dao. He only needed to think to reach the answer. His gaze swept across, and answers continuously emerged in his mind. The endless Dao mountain, a holy land of cultivation above all heavens. Almost every cultivator who comes here has a significant background. The reason why those figures were shrouded in mysterious black and gray auras was not of their own doing, but because of the protective power of the rules of the endless Dao mountain. As long as they stepped into this place, they would be enveloped by the power of the rules, preventing deduction. The endless Dao mountain is unowned, and immortal gods, human demons, and demon evils may all come to seek enlightenment. Combat is not allowed here, even immortal gods must abide by the rules. Guan also found a place from where he could leave the endless Dao mountain. Different places lead to different cosmic planes, some emanating an aura making him wary to explore. He even suspected that a certain place might connect to the celestial court. Whatever he wanted to understand, he could get an answer, unless it involved a power higher than his own. This was no longer mere deduction but a higher-tier power, a power that could only be unlocked by reaching Dao Extreme Daluo Immortal. Dao Extreme Daluo Immortal, nearly immortal, omniscient, and omnipotent, truly the pinnacle of the immortal Dao. While enjoying the improvement of his cultivation level, Guan's gaze swept over, gaining a deeper and deeper understanding of the endless Dao mountain. He decided to return and have a look sometime later. Although he could not yet determine how far the endless Dao mountain was from the celestial spirit great world, he could leave a mark and trace this realm from the celestial spirit great world. Time flowed swiftly. Those existing at the summit of the endless Dao mountain merely observed silently, with no one choosing to flee this world. Thus the endless Dao mountain did not descend into chaos, and no one arrived at the Dao mountain where Guan resided. Ultimately, by the time Guan reached the mid-stage of the Dao Extreme Daluo Immortal realm, no one invaded the Dao mountain where he was located. He looked at his attribute panel. 900 billion years of lifespan remained. He could not break through again. Guan took a deep breath, stood up, and chose to teleport back. Immediately after, he disappeared from where he stood. The anomaly of the endless Tao mountain had not yet completely dissipated, but the heavenly thunders in the sky gradually thinned, and the sound also diminished. At dusk. Taoist field of the beginningless. Guan leisurely continued along the mountain path. After half a day's search, his divine sense had locked onto the endless Tao mountain. When returning to the endless Tao mountain in the future, there is no need to use lifespan for breakthroughs again. Actually, while coming back, he could rely on himself to return. However, considering the presence of Tao Extreme Daluo Immortals and Heavenly Court Immortals at the endless Tao mountain, he decided to proceed with caution. Using 10 billion years of lifespan to ensure safety. No matter how high the realm is, caution is needed, especially when facing beings of the same realm. Guan was in a pleasant mood. After reaching the Tao Extreme Daluo Immortal, he could see further, and the future heaven's calamities were all within his sight, posing no threat to him. He arrived at the courtyard, and his gaze turned towards Shenzhen in front of the artifact refining cauldron. He peered into the causal connection to Fairy Yao Xian within Shenzhen, seeing a line connecting to the outer heaven. He looked up, following that line across countless worlds and universes, and he saw an absolutely black void. Fairy Yao Xian's soul was hidden in that void. Moreover, there were other souls there, countless in number, all of whom were exiled by the path of cause and effect. There were existences of all realms, even Daluo immortals, all immobilized and in slumber. Causeless realm. Guan's mind received the name of that void, and his brows furrowed. He could feel the threat of the causeless realm, which harbored extremely terrifying power. Despite being a place of exile by the path of cause and effect, it seemed there existed a will in this realm capable of free action, more frightening than the Tao Extreme Daluo Immortals of the endless Tao mountain. It seems rescuing Fairy Yao Xian is not yet possible. Guan silently withdrew his gaze. Not in a hurry. Judging by Fairy Yao Xian's current state, she wasn't suffering. Her consciousness had already fallen asleep, losing the concept of time. As long as he saved her before her soul dissipated, it wouldn't matter how much time passed in between, making no difference to her. Shenzhen seemed to sense Guan's gaze, turning her head to look. Sir the Oval Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Upon seeing Guan, her expression changed slightly, and she appeared a bit dazed. Although Guan's appearance, temperament, and aura hadn't changed in the slightest, her intuition told her he had grown stronger again. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 651 White-Haired Ancestor. What are you looking at? Guan asked Shenzhen with a smile. He could hear the speculations in Shenzhen's heart, but he didn't reveal them. Even in front of Shenzhen, Guan wouldn't disclose his true strength. Shenzhen snapped back to reality and asked, "The Tianhong Emperor has left. Do you really think relying on him can save the world?" These years, the human world has become increasingly chaotic, and she can also sense a mysterious force manipulating the lives of all beings in the shadows. Such a power must involve outer heaven. This is not the cause and effect that the Tianhong Emperor of Tao Void Profound Immortal Realm can conclude, even if he holds a Tao treasure. Guan moved a chair nearby closer to him with a wave, sat down and said, "Don't underestimate his potential. He has the talent comparable to Tian Hao. Do you think he seems like an ordinary person? Does he also have an immortal god's background?" Perhaps. Hearing this from Guan, Shenzhen could conclude that the Tianhong Emperor had an inseparable connection with the immortal gods. Click, click. The immortal gods are elusive and never to be seen, yet near Guan, they seem not so extraordinary. Shenzhen looked at Guan by her side, her eyes filled with a strange radiance. She was very curious about what role Guan played in the eyes of the immortal gods. Shenzhen jokingly asked, "With so many immortal gods appearing before you, the Celestial Court's target wouldn't be you, right? If one day, the Celestial Court invites you to join the immortal class, what would you choose?" "That would depend on what the immortal position is," Guan replied casually. Shenzhen's eyes smiled into crescent moons as she asked, "What if they invited you to tend horses?" She had initially reached out to Guan because she liked his books and continued to flip through The Investiture of the Gods, Journey to the West, and Supreme Immortal Venerable to this day. Guan threw Shenzhen a sidelong glance and said unkindly, "You're so humorous. If that's the case, then I'll go tend the horses and bring you along to assist me." Sure. The horses in the heavens must be extraordinary, Shen Zhan said excitedly, causing Guan to shake his head and laugh. The two plotted for some time about going to the celestial court to tend horses before they started talking about world affairs. Shen Zhan was very curious about what the mysterious force causing chaos in the human world was. Guan didn't hide it and shared his discovery with her, hoping to increase her understanding of the Great Tao. Speaking of it, apart from an xin, Guan also put great effort into nurturing Shen Zhan. It wasn't because he was biased, but because others hadn't reached the stage of enlightenment and were still in the low-level stage of practicing in retreat. Shen Zhan was able to achieve her current accomplishments because she received the cause and effect of the Emperor of Eternal Life. Of course, this doesn't mean she was just lucky. After all, she regarded Guan as her only reliance, unlike the celestial demon child, who has a life-and-death relationship with Guan. She abandoned other connections to choose Guan, which is also the reason why the Emperor of Eternal Life chose her. Everything has cause and effect. Behind every coincidence is inevitability. That year, the human world faced a change because a once peerless prodigy from ages past was reborn. The Tianhong Emperor did not return to the Tao court but traveled the lands, suppressing evil forces everywhere. As the world's ruler, the Tao court also exerted efforts to quell chaos. Many prodigies emerged as saviors, the most renowned among them being the current chief disciple of the Tao court, Zhao Rushan. In those chaotic and dark years, the Tianhong Emperor and Zhao Rushan appeared like two stars, wanting to use their faint light to illuminate the entire world. 100 years later. On this morning, after picking medicinal herbs within the Taoist field of the beginningless, Guan left alone. As he walked through the woods outside the field, his figure suddenly vanished. He continued onward, but the universe beneath his feet changed with each step, traversing a cosmic plane. Time and space reeled back. Light sped in reverse. His steps seemed swift but slow due to the lack of an end. Suddenly, black gas swirled around Guan, quickly enveloping him. As his right foot set down, he found himself in a dim void. He halted and looked ahead, seeing an endless expanse of Tao mountains, all magnificent and impressive, towering like deities in the distance with divine might emanating boundlessly, full of oppressive force. Endless Tao mountains. Guan had just manifested but immediately felt the force of this place's rules surging toward him, seemingly wanting to cloak him in a layer preventing cause and effect analysis, yet he didn't hide his true form. He continued to maintain the great Tao formless body, for he was also wary of these rules. Once the force of the rules bound him, he felt his actions weren't restricted. It was a very intriguing rule. He stepped forward, admiring the towering Tao mountains along the way. Saw the novel, F.I.R. NT website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Before coming, he had suppressed his cultivation level to heaven-opening Daluo Immortal, and not only that, he had also reduced his presence to appear as a mysterious, cautious cultivator inadvertently exuding a slight heaven-opening Daluo Immortal aura. Coming to the endless Tao mountains, he wasn't seeking cultivation but information, wanting to forge connections with the cultivators here and gain more insights into the great Tao. If he could learn more about the celestial court here, that would be even better. He wandered aimlessly, noticing most cultivators occupied a Tao mountain alone, as there were indeed too many. The cultivators seemed wary of each other too. This could be troublesome. Guan began to miss Baizia of Human World Peak. When he first ventured to outer heaven, he met the enthusiastic Baizia, who even introduced him to Human World Peak. Although Human World Peak hadn't greatly aided his cultivation, it did help him better understand the heavens and earth, which is why he had never severed ties with Human World Peak, cherishing these bonds. He continued roaming, waiting for an opportunity. During this time, he also saw other figures entering endless Tao mountains, most having clear objectives, flying swiftly. Guan spotted a figure that seemed as confused as him, moving slowly and constantly looking around. He hesitated for a moment, then cautiously flew over as if he was being careful. The other was also a heaven-opening Daluo Immortal. Perhaps having some degree of confidence, they dared to wander like this. Guan previously saw a Tai Ching Golden Immortal enter, and immediately hide within a Tao mountain. This heaven-opening Daluo Immortal had a slightly slender figure, resembling a Taoist, holding a horsetail whisk resembling a sword. Seeing Guan approaching, he stopped and turned to look at him. "Fellow Taoist, may I ask if this is the endless Tao mountains?" Guan asked, changing his voice. This is indeed the endless Tao Mountains. Is it your first time here? The other replied, their tone slightly cold. Yes, I've heard the endless Tao Mountains contain endless true meanings of the great Tao. My Tao practice has reached a bottleneck, so I wanted to give it a try. The great Tao aura here is indeed dense, even beyond my imagination, but it's different from what I expected. At the end of his sentence, Guan pretended to hesitate. Didn't expect there to be so many people here, right? The other chimed in. Exactly. Guan's tone contained a hint of amazement. The other remarked, those who come here to cultivate are truly great powers from various realms. It only goes to show how vast the great Tao is, far beyond our imagination. I had some understanding of the endless Tao Mountains before coming, but upon arrival, like you, I was astonished. My name is Hongya Zi, from the Misty Immortal Court. What's your name, and which sect do you hail from? Misty Immortal Court? Guan didn't expect the first Daluo immortal he would meet to be from the Misty Immortal Court. He followed with, my name is Meng Lang. When I attained Golden Immortal, my sect was destroyed, so I've been wandering without a sect for now. Upon hearing, Hongya Zi said, with your Tao practice, founding a sect wouldn't be difficult. Guan shook his head. Forget it. Having a sect means having burdens. I prefer pursuing the great Tao freely and unfettered. That's certainly reasonable, Hongya Zi agreed, seemingly deep in thought before falling silent. Guan pondered on how to further the relationship. Fellow Taoist Meng, since you're also new here, I assume you don't know where to head next. Why not join me to listen to a true immortal's lecture? Hongya Zi invited. Guan was flattered and hesitantly asked, I follow you? Is that suitable? Hongya Zi reassured, don't worry, I don't have any connection with that true immortal. Their lectures aren't private. Anyone can attend and listen. May I ask the name of the true immortal? He is revered as the white-haired ancestor, a highly respected immortal god of the celestial court. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 652. Preaching, the incomparable Liya of today and the past. The dojo of the white-haired ancestor is situated on the endless Tao Mountain. Led by Hongya Zi, the two soon reached the Tao Mountain where teachings were held. The height of this Tao Mountain ranked among the top 10, and there was an abundance of powerful presences on the mountain. They flew to a mid-mountain location where a sprawling open-air palace had been constructed. On the palace, there were thousands of mats, and already dozens of figures had gathered here. These figures were shrouded in the aura of rules, their true forms not revealed. Hongya Zi was familiar with some of them and introduced Guan to these individuals of great power. The atmosphere was quite congenial, and the conversation was enjoyable. Among those who came to listen to the teachings were also Tai Ching Golden Immortals, who dared not intrude on the conversations of the Daluo Immortals and stayed at a distance. As Guan conversed with other Daluo Immortals, he was also reflecting in his heart. Indeed, no matter where you go, there will always be hierarchy. In any great thousand world, a Tai Ching Golden Immortal would be an unimaginable powerhouse, yet here, they were all very constrained, lacking the demeanor of a supreme being. He only sighed briefly, not giving it much thought. Those he conversed with were heaven-opening Daluo Immortals, while afar, there was a Miaojin Daluo Immortal whom no one dared disturb. Through other heaven-opening Daluo Immortals, Guan gained a deeper understanding of the white-haired ancestor, who held a status in the celestial court far above that of an immortal monarch. He also learned that this lecture might last several hundred, or even thousands of years, with still several months before it began. Guan was not inclined to listen to the teachings here for thousands of years, as he also needed to gather medicinal herbs. So before the arrival of the white-haired ancestor, he switched to a clone, and his true self secretly exited the endless Tao Mountain, returning to the celestial spirit great world unnoticed by the great cultivators present. Even when in the celestial spirit great world, he could connect his mind with a clone, equivalent to listening in person. Such a method probably didn't count as disrespect, and he thought that other listeners might not all be their true selves either. In the following times, more listeners continued to arrive. With the help of Hongya Zi, Guan met numerous powerful figures from different factions. Hongya Zi even introduced him to a star monarch of the celestial palace. Although this star monarch had only the cultivation level of a Tai Ching golden immortal, relying on the celestial palace meant no others dared disrespect him. Even in the endless Dao Mountain, the celestial palace held absolute authority, and no one dared to offend it. Through Hongya Zi, Guan also understood that the celestial palace had little renown across the 3,000 great thousand worlds because the rulers of various places did not wish their subjects to know there was an even mightier existence overseeing them, and the celestial gods guarding the great thousand worlds also gave face by not appearing rashly. This broadened Guan's horizons. Apparently, there were relationships of interest between the celestial gods of other great thousand worlds and their rulers. No wonder people from other great thousand worlds frequently took the celestial order through the world gate. Months quickly passed by. By the day of the lecture, the number of listeners at this dojo had exceeded 800, with most discussing the phenomenon before the endless Dao Mountain. Guan was already seated, patiently waiting for the arrival of the white-haired ancestor. He sensed the aura of a Dao Extreme Daluo immortal at the top of Dao Mountain. Surely, that must be the white-haired ancestor. Guan silently compared and felt that the opponent's cultivation might be in the late or perfection realm of the Dao Extreme Daluo immortal stage. Although he was already a Dao Extreme Daluo immortal, his life had been so short, like a child compared to a true Daluo immortal, so he was full of anticipation for this lecture. He wanted to see how vast the Dao intent of other Dao Extreme Daluo immortals was, and how teachings from beyond heaven differed from his own. Dong! A bell sound reverberated through the entire Dao Mountain, bringing quiet to the dojo, as a white light fell from the sky onto the steps in front of the palace, mighty immortal energy dispersing, forming a strong wind over every listener. Guan squinted and saw a figure descending from the white light. The white-haired ancestor. Dao Extreme Daluo Immortal. Within the dojo, there were only 2 Miaojin Daluo immortals, and even if the aura of all the listeners combined, it couldn't match the white-haired ancestor. This made most listeners sit up straight involuntarily. As the white light faded, the figure of the white-haired ancestor was revealed. Though her entire form was surrounded by the gray aura of rules, from her silhouette, she was clearly a female immortal, holding a horsetail whisk in her hand, her robes wrapped tightly around her. This time, I will be discussing the path of power for you all. The voice of the white-haired ancestor sounded, melodious indeed, a female voice infused with immense Dao intent, causing the Dao rules on the Dao Mountain to pause. Thank you, ancestor. The listeners all bowed and said, and Guan followed suit in salutation. The path of power? He indeed wished to see what distinctive insights this white-haired ancestor had on the path of power, given that he had also mastered it and held great interest in it. The white-haired ancestor sat down, and beneath her appeared a green lotus, equally unfathomable. Guan even felt the lotus harbored power not weaker than that of the white-haired ancestor. As the white-haired ancestor began her teachings, time swiftly flowed by. Guan's mind was also immersed in the listening, following the guidance of the white-haired ancestor to comprehend the path of power. While the clone listened to the teachings on the endless Dao Mountain, Guan continued living in the celestial spirit great world. Harvesting medicinal herbs had become a regular task for him, one that he wouldn't interrupt. The conflicts in the human world grew more intense, with volatile rulers emerging within various sects and imperial dynasties, inciting more fierce power struggles internally, including within the Dao court. When internal strife engulfed the Dao court, unable to fully salvage the worldly chaos, disorder across the universe intensified. Emperor Tianhong had fully harnessed the power of the longevity sword, capable of contending against the free immortal of Daoist Zong, yet his pressure continued to grow. He underestimated the difficulty of the salvation task arranged by the supporting Dao sword venerable. Sir the novel, F. Ire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. In attempting to align with the Dao court, the result was that the Dao court soon erupted into chaos. Some even coveted his physical body, attempting to possess him. After much fighting, he completely severed ties with the Dao court, and under Zhao Russian's scheming, became a most wanted criminal of the Dao court. He had no choice but to use Dao treasures to seek out other Wushiji disciples still making their way in the world. Guan observed all these scenes without issuing more directives. Until one day, someone appeared in front of the mountain gate of the Chenkuan sect, wearing black clothes, a bamboo hat, and carrying a sword, appearing travel-worn. He looked up at the plaque above the mountain gate, revealing a cold face. It was Li Ya. A divine exotic immortal spirit jumped out of his body, landing on his shoulder. Looking at the Qianquan sect, it sighed. Such abundant destiny, far beyond what the supreme sect can compare to. No wonder it's a force nurtured by the master. Li Ya's gaze was complicated. He took a deep breath and stepped forward. May I ask your origins, sir? And if you have an invitation to join the sect? A Qianquan sect disciple raised a sword scabbard, blocking Li Ya, his gaze calm as he scrutinized him. Li Ya took out a token from his sleeve, saying, I have the token of Elder Li Xuanyu. I am her clansman. The Qianquan sect disciple took the token, examined it carefully, then allowed Li Ya to enter the sect upon confirming it was genuine. The divine exotic immortal spirit stood on Li Ya's shoulder, jesting, Even though you're already a divine immortal of wondrous dharma, these disciples still don't take you seriously. It seems your cultivation isn't enough yet. Li Ya snorted, Nowadays, geniuses keep emerging. What's my talent worth? Don't provoke me. I am no longer the hot-blooded Li Ya of old. The divine exotic immortal spirit covered its mouth and laughed, but didn't tease him further. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 653. The calamity ends as the cup falls under the blue sky, with green mountains and clear waters, birds sing and flowers blossom. Li Ya and Li Xuanyu sat in a small pavilion below the mountain stream, drinking tea and catching up. Listening to Li Ya recount his experiences over the years, Li Xuanyu appeared indifferent but was feeling a lot of emotions inside. Compared to Li Ya, she felt much luckier. In order to become stronger, Li Ya had to roam around and seize opportunities, engaging in combat year after year, whereas she had no shortage of cultivation resources within the Qianquan sect and faced no bottlenecks in practice. Regarding the absence of bottlenecks in her practice, she suspected that Guan was secretly helping her. Before meeting Guan, her comprehension wasn't as impressive. After finishing his legendary tales, Li Ya raised an eyebrow as he looked at Li Xuanyu and asked, Sister, how have you been these years? He was unaware of the emotions in Li Xuanya's heart. He was still very proud of his own experiences, and although he wasn't listed among the prodigies, his reputation was not low, and it was all earned through his own efforts. Li Xuanyu didn't conceal her experiences and began to recount how she was mainly advancing her status within the Qianquan sect. In the end, Li Xuanyu sighed, Compared to you, my life is too plain. Li Ya was initially engrossed, but the more he listened, the more he felt something was off. With the assistance of the sect's great powers, she successfully crossed the tribulation and broke through to the heaven and earth flying immortal realm. Under the guidance of immortals, she achieved the Xiaoyao immortal realm. During the celestial tribulation when crossing the mysterious spiritual immortal realm, she almost perished, luckily aided by the Wuxia Dao treasure. Li Ya opened his mouth, wanting to ask, Is this right? He knew Li Xuanya's talent. Back on the Taizong continent, he had already surpassed Li Xuanyu. After tens of thousands of years of wandering the world, encountering numerous opportunities, he had endured countless hardships just to prove himself in the divine immortal of wondrous Dharma realm. The difficulties Li Xuanyu encountered during her tribulations were the same as his, and every time he succeeded, he was badly wounded and suffered greatly. And Li Xuanyu? Even though she was his own sister, Li Ya couldn't help feeling uncomfortable. Junior brother Gu, are you trying to tell me that staying by your side holds more promise? Li Ya felt that Guan was deliberately nurturing Li Xuanyu. If it were just an ordinary connection, protection would already be commendable. How could Li Xuanyu have cultivated to her current realm? And so quickly? Li Xuanyu asked, Why have you come? Why? Li Ya felt inexplicably blocked in his heart. His relationship with Guan was closer, so why did it now seem more distant? Li Ya answered, Regarding this world, I have obtained some information that I want to convey to Fu Dao Sword Venerable. He almost couldn't help but refer to Guan as junior brother Gu, but then thought that Guan was Fu Dao Sword Venerable and was the one who altered Li Xuanya's fate. He shouldn't be so impolite. Moreover, after tens of thousands of years, would Guan still recognize him as senior brother? Sar the Novel Fire, any *T website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. As his realm grew higher, Li Ya's understanding also improved, and he became increasingly in awe of Fu Dao Sword Venerable's power. No matter how strong he became, he was still an ordinary person in this world. He had encountered too many existences that made him look up in awe, which is why he was often amazed by Guan's strength. What kind of strength could allow Guan to disregard the entire celestial spirit great world, and even confront terrifying existences from outer heaven? About the world? Li Xuanyu was surprised, and was about to ask more. Suddenly, a figure appeared beside the two of them. The newcomer rolled up his sleeves and sat down directly. Li Xuanyu was stunned. Staring blankly at Guan, Liya was equally shocked when he saw Guan suddenly sitting beside him. Guan was dressed in white, wearing a newly crafted immortal king crown, exuding an ethereal aura, and with that nearly perfect face, he seemed like an immortal monarch descended from the heavens. What? Not welcoming me? Guan smiled, then nonchalantly poured himself some tea. Li Xuanyu regained her composure and said, "How could we not welcome you? I just didn't expect you to come out personally." Her gaze inadvertently turned to Liya. She had known for a long time that Guan valued Liya greatly, but she didn't expect that as soon as Liya arrived, Guan would personally come to meet him. This affection runs deep. Her heart was filled with confusion. Logically, when Guan met Liya, he was already a transcendent great power, so how could spending just a few years together in the profound valley forge such a bond? Or was there a potential within Liya that she couldn't see through? Guan drank a cup of tea and said with a chuckle, "Go ahead, what is this intelligence about the world that you need to tell me?" Liya snapped back to reality, his expression turning serious, and said, "The world is becoming increasingly chaotic. I initially thought it was just celestial Tao reincarnation, until I met an old Taoist. He was a servant of the heavenly Tao and had encountered some kind of curse. Before he died, he told me that a grudge power from outer heaven is tainting the human world. It will amplify the evil thoughts in living beings' hearts, and if this force isn't eradicated, chaos in the human world will continue until the world perishes." Li Xuanyu's expression changed after hearing this, and she instinctively looked at Guan, wanting to know if what Liya said was true. She believed that Guan could see through everything in the world. Guan looked at Liya and softly laughed. "You also mentioned it amplifies the evil thoughts in hearts, which suggests that there is already grudge in the hearts of all beings, doesn't it?" What Liya said was indeed true. Those believers who spread the heavenly Tao and celestial court in the human world had been subjected to curses in succession. Clearly, that strange force dreaded the celestial court, but with so many great thousand worlds being invaded by the strange force, could the celestial court be unaware? Guan had already detected the source of the strange force, which came from Chaos Grudge Luo, an evil entity originating from beyond the 3,000 great worlds with cultivation at the middle stage of the Miaojin Daluo immortal realm. After deducing, Guan realized there are many similar evil entities like Chaos Grudge Luo within Chaos, and the presence of Celestial Court destiny at the edge of Chaos indicated that the Celestial Court had long been targeting Chaos. Chaos Grudge Luo invading the 3,000 great worlds seems like a conspiracy from whichever angle. This conspiracy might originate from Profound Star Immortal Monarch. How could he be the one to stick his neck out? When the Celestial Spirit Great World truly reaches the brink of life and death, then he would act. He had saved this part of the Great Thousand World many times, but the living beings he saved would eventually head towards death, and his intervention was merely to extend the lifespan of all living beings. Humans have emotions and desires, so evil thoughts cannot be eradicated, but the outer heaven force certainly conceals a greater calamity. Perhaps this force grows stronger by absorbing the evil thoughts of all living beings? Liya said, frowning. Guan cast a sidelong glance at him and said irritably, "It's not that exaggerated." He had already seen through the reason Chaos Grudge Luo released the strange force. It wasn't to absorb the power of all living beings but rather, as its grudge power covered more, the Celestial Tao destiny would recede. Once the Celestial Tao destiny completely dissipated, Chaos Grudge Luo would descend. Before breaking through, he also thought Chaos Grudge Luo's invasion of the Great Thousand World was for feeding or strengthening. Now it seems, the invaded Great Thousand Worlds resemble a path. Chaos Grudge Luo might be fleeing or attempting to reach a certain place, but encountering too much Celestial Tao destiny along the way, it could only act in this manner. It's like a refugee fleeing, being too hurried to care if any bugs were squashed along the way. Li Xuanyu chimed in, "Endless are the tribulations of the world, we cannot always rely on the sword venerable. The lessons learned from blood will be left in history, for future generations to remember, thereby avoiding more disasters." She was also comprehending the path of cause and effect, and her greatest insight was that as long as there is spiritual intelligence, conflict is inevitable, and with enough conflict, disaster is bound to occur. She believed that one must save oneself amidst disasters rather than seek assistance from strong entities outside the rules. Lately, there have been undercurrents surging within the Chenkuan sect, and the atmosphere has become increasingly severe. However, the higher-ups didn't want to ask for Wushi's help, as that would appear incompetent. But Liya hesitated, having initially thought the matter would not be difficult for Guan, hence why he sought Guan out, only to be refused unexpectedly. Guan gently pushed his teacup towards Liya and said, "Does senior brother Li very much want to end this chaos?" Liya instinctively picked up the teapot and poured tea for Guan, then asked, "What do you mean, just because I want it, it can happen? Since you came looking for me, how could I not fulfill your wish?" Guan said with great vigor. In front of others, he would pretend to be a sage, but in front of Liya, he wanted to show off a bit. Liya was greatly surprised, but recalling Li Zuanyu's words, he felt they made sense. Once this tribulation ends, what about the next? Would he have to seek out Guan every time? Liya furrowed his brow, hesitating. Would doing this deplete your cultivation level or bring you immense trouble? Guan lifted his teacup and emptied it again, then shook the cup at Liya and said, "This catastrophe may be unstoppable for the all-living beings under heaven, but for me, it's just like putting down this cup." As he finished speaking, he gently placed the teacup down. He looked at Liya and smiled. "See, isn't it done?" Liya was stunned. Li Zuanyu's eyes also showed a look of confusion. Little did they know that the strange force enveloping the all-living beings under heaven dissipated in that instant, ceasing to exist. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 654. The Change of Cause and Effect. Isn't it already done? Upon hearing Gu An's words, Liya was momentarily dazed. Such a boastful tone. So good at pretending. Liya secretly grumbled, then asked, "When will you take action?" If peace could return to the world, that would naturally be a good thing. Guan looked at Liya, blinked and said, "Haven't I already taken action?" Liya widened his eyes and said in a deep voice, "Junior brother Gu, don't jest with me. How? Did your cup land on the table and disperse that bizarre power covering all living beings?" Guan smiled at him, not answering. Li Xuanyu was the first to believe Gu An's words, her gaze at Guan full of indescribable meaning. CTH Novel Ire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Faced with Gu An's smile, Liya suddenly felt a jolt in his heart. Could it be that Guan was not boasting, but actually did it? But why did he not feel any trace of it? Could it be that before he came, Guan had already resolved that strange power? Liya was filled with confusion, not knowing what to ask. "What are your plans for the future? Do you need to enter the Dao court?" Guan asked, not continuing to discuss the strange power. He believed that after parting this time, Liya would investigate this matter, and then, Liya would be even more amazed by his strength. Liya did not question Gu An's ability to arrange for him to enter the Dao court, but he shook his head and said, "I don't want to be restricted, otherwise I would have stayed at the Supreme Sect all along. I plan to continue traveling, as there are countless opportunities in this world that have yet to bore me." Besides the opportunities nurtured by the Great Thousand World after its reshaping, Guan once spread treasures from the battle court across the world. To this day, 70% of them have yet to surface, including various inheritances. Even Liya, as a divine immortal of wondrous dharma, and indeed a profound yuan-free immortal, would encounter suitable divine skills and secret skills. After hearing this, Guan did not insist. He began reminiscing about the past, causing both Li Xuanyu and Liya to be filled with emotion. 160,000 years ago, even if they were beaten to death, they could never have imagined achieving the accomplishments and status they enjoyed today. Speaking of old friends, they began to talk more to each other, with Li Xuanyu occasionally interjecting. The atmosphere was very harmonious. 1 hour later, Guan invited Liya to visit the Chenkuan sect, while Li Xuanyu found an excuse to leave, not disturbing them. After they were alone, Liya no longer held back and began to talk about his troubles over the years. He spoke about family, love, and enemies, saying whatever came to mind. Even when facing his wife and children, he would never show a vulnerable side, but facing Guen, he couldn't help but speak of these matters. Guen listened attentively, occasionally teasing Li Ya, causing Li Ya's emotions to fluctuate. After staying at the Chenkuan sect for 2 days, Guen took Li Ya to Wushir to see his dojo. Upon stepping into the dojo, Li Ya was awestruck by the spiritual energy present. Guen accompanied Li Ya on a stroll inside the dojo, where they encountered disciples cultivating. The dojo was vast, and the disciples preferred to cultivate alone in different spots. Upon seeing Guan's arrival, the disciples all paid their respects, and Guen introduced Li Ya to them. The disciples had an impression of Li Ya, having heard from an Xian that Li Ya was the person Guen cared about most. Li Ya could sense that each Wushiji disciple's cultivation level was not weaker than his own, and an Xian and the Blood Prison Great Saint gave him an overwhelming sense of pressure. However, Li Ya wasn't discouraged, believing it only natural to train alongside Guen. After staying at the Taoist field of the Beginningless for 3 days, he bid farewell to Guen. "Would you like to stay and cultivate?" Guen asked with a smile. Li Ya shook his head and said, "I've relied on you a lot already. To tell the truth, I still have the ambition to surpass you. Though cultivating by your side would be faster, it's impossible to surpass you, so I need to forge my own path, and my nature isn't suited to long-term seclusion. The world is vast, and my eyes have yet to fully take it in. After I've roamed across this world, I'll return to reminisce with you." At this, Li Ya became high-spirited. Guen greatly admired his ambition and thus did not stop him. "Besides, I need to see if you've truly resolved the catastrophe," Li Ya stated, staring intensely at Guen, as if challenging him. Guen laughed and said, "I'm afraid these eyes of yours won't perceive if I've truly resolved it." Upon hearing this, Li Ya was instantly frustrated. The divine exotic immortal spirit popped out and said, pitifully, "Master, I want to stay." Li Ya immediately grabbed it, and with an awkward smile, said to Guen, "It's speaking nonsense." The divine exotic immortal spirit widened its eyes, struggling hard. "You two do match well." Guen shook his head and laughed. He could hear the thoughts of the divine exotic immortal spirit, knowing it was reluctant to leave Li Ya, and spoke out of disapproval of Li Ya's posturing. "We're leaving now." Li Ya left this utterance, taking the divine exotic immortal spirit with him. Guen stood amid the woods, watching them leave, feeling quite amused by their banter. The power of divine exotic city was inferior to Tao treasure. Even if had given divine exotic city to Li Ya, he wouldn't have minded. The reason for maintaining a layer of connection was in case Li Ya suddenly left his line of sight in the future. An Xian appeared beside Guen, also watching Li Ya's back. She curiously asked, "Master, did Elder Li's causal change, was it your doing?" Though she couldn't clearly see all of Li Ya's fate, she could feel the changes in Li Ya's fate and causality, affecting his destiny. "No, it's his choices that changed his causality," Guen answered calmly. Though the strange power had been dispelled by Guen, Li Ya's interest in powers from outer heaven had been piqued, and he would focus more on everything related to outer heaven, thereby altering his life's path. With Guan's influence existing, the future of the reincarnation body would become more and more illusory. After all, the reincarnation body itself is determined by the original body. Guan's current strength could create different futures, even make different futures exist truly. Using modern Earth's terms, he could create parallel worlds with a single thought. An Xian had a thoughtful expression, believing Li Ya's change in choices was also due to this conversation with Guen. Guen turned around and returned, with an Xian closely following, starting to ask him about her cultivation doubts. Though the strange power had been dispersed by Guen, the hatred among people had already formed, and the chaos in the human world would continue for a while, but compared to before, it wouldn't become more tragic. Meanwhile, Emperor Tianhong would earlier confront Zhao Rushan, marking the beginning of an unprecedented era of dual heroes. This contention would also shake the foundations of the Tao court, bringing a new variable to the dynamics of the human world. Endless Tao Mountain. The white-haired ancestor lectured for a millennium, and as the bell rang, all listeners awoke. "I permit each of you to ask one question. Once I've resolved everyone's doubts, this lecture will conclude. You may ask about any confusion during the lecture, or ask questions unrelated to this lecture." The voice of the white-haired ancestor rose, causing whispers to ripple through the dojo. Guan also began to ponder what kind of question he should ask the white-haired ancestor. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 655. Songtian, infinite. After the words of the white-haired ancestor ended, he did not give the listeners much time to think and soon had the listener sitting at the front ask a question. This listener inquired about the confusion arising during the hearing of the Tao. The path of power is vast and boundless, and the Tao practice of the white-haired ancestor is extremely profound. Even Gu En, with his achievements in Tao comprehension, benefited greatly from the listening. Facing the listener's question, the white-haired ancestor quickly dispelled doubts, answering with profound meaning, causing many listeners to fall into contemplation. The white-haired ancestor continued to call on people, letting the listeners ask questions one after another. Search *the Nafire @ website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Guan originally wanted to gather some information. Seeing that the previous questions were all about cultivation matters, he felt he couldn't make an exception. However, after several dozen listeners, someone finally asked a question unrelated to cultivation. Ancestor, you are honored as the Celestial Tao Venerable of the Celestial Court. How do you view the relationship between chaos and the Celestial Court? Does the Celestial Court leave room for chaos? This listener's voice was female, her words sharp, her tone aggressive, more like an interrogation. Guan felt that despite her cultivation level being just at the heaven-opening Daluo Immortal, she dared to speak to the white-haired ancestor in such a manner. What kind of backing did she have? Chaos is the place where the great Tao is nurtured. It cannot be eradicated. The Celestial Court can only set boundaries, leaving no room for leeway. The white-haired ancestor responded indifferently, his tone unchanged from before, seeming not to be angered. This listener was surrounded by the aura of rules. Guan was also unsure if she was satisfied with the answer. Questions continued, and once someone led, subsequent questions were all related to the Celestial Court. Besides the Celestial Tao Immortal Position Assessment and participating in Celestial Army Selection, is there a third way to join the Immortal class? If one renders great merit to the living beings of a certain world, the Celestial Court will also reward them, allowing them to join the Immortal class. This is also the main purpose of the Heavenly Tao. The God of Destruction destroyed the Lingjiang Great World without proclaiming the Celestial Court's decree. Is there another scheme behind this? I do not control the celestial gods. I cannot answer you. I also will not help you investigate this matter. If you are dissatisfied, you can petition Songtian. Facing the listener's inquiries, the white-haired ancestor's every answer came quickly. She did not seem to hold the posture of an immortal god, and she also displayed considerable toughness in the face of some challenging questions. Through the listener's questions, Guan also learned about Songtian. Songtian is a kind of will manifested by the Celestial Court using the Heavenly Tao, omnipresent. If there is suffering in the human world, one can complain to Songtian, and it will be conveyed to the Celestial Court. The white-haired ancestor used Songtian to handle many listeners' grievances. Guan also felt that Songtian was quite far-fetched, but it related to the Celestial Tao destiny which even a Tao Extreme Daluo Immortal could not deduce. Throughout the listening, he had only one feeling. All living beings have long suffered under the Celestial Court. The Celestial Court's inaction and wanton actions are clearly not isolated incidents. Yet faced with so many complaints, the white-haired ancestor remained indifferent, did not make any promises, but also did not get angry over the listener's questions. She truly resembled the immortal god Guan imagined, not feeling joy or sorrow over the happiness or suffering of all living beings. She seemed unconcerned with the suffering of all beings. Her purpose here was not to do anything for the Celestial Court. She simply wished to expound on the Tao, seeking nothing in return. Guan had to admit that such a mindset was the strongest, unbound by any factors. Of course, due to his stance, Guan could not agree with the Celestial Court, because their inaction also posed a threat to him. Time quickly passed. Unknowingly, it was Gu An's turn to speak. He was already prepared. When the white-haired ancestor's gaze fell on him, he opened his mouth and asked, I have traveled to many universes, finding those powerful ones in infinite expansion. I want to ask, is the Great Tao truly infinite, and what is our meaning as cultivators within the Great Tao? Regarding the Celestial Court's issues, many had already asked, making him unwilling to inquire further. Whether the Great Tao is infinite, This is a question he pondered frequently. If the Great Tao is truly infinite, it would mean that time and space are also infinite, with no distinction between ancient and future, and cultivators are merely part of the Great Tao, never able to surpass it. If Guan were also infinite like the Great Tao, he should not only have infinite possibilities in the future, his past should also be without end. He could not imagine having no origin to his past. This is like the question of which came first, the chicken or the egg. If Guan is the chicken, aiming to achieve infinity like the Great Tao, wouldn't he need to create an egg for himself, which easily leads to a paradox? The existence of the path of cause and effect proves that everything has a starting point. Guan's question brought silence to the dojo. No longer were there whispers. The white-haired ancestor said, "As of now, the Great Tao is indeed infinite. Even the celestial court cannot reach the source of the Great Tao. Even the Supreme Celestial Emperor cannot see the end of the Great Tao. It is precisely for this reason that we can continuously comprehend the Great Tao, never feeling weary or satisfied." This answer did not fully satisfy Guan, but at least clarified that the celestial court has not yet reached the point of dominating the Great Tao. The questions continued. When everyone had finished asking, several days had passed. When involving enlightenment issues, the white-haired ancestor would speak more. After the questions ended, the white-haired ancestor rose and left, and once she left, the dojo became lively, with some listeners immediately leaving, while others chose to stay and continue socializing. Hongya did not leave, and pulled Guan along to interact, which suited Guan perfectly. When meeting a heaven-opening Daluo immortal from the Great Thousand World, Guan feigned curiosity and asked, "I heard from a fellow Taoist that Chaos Grudge Luo from Chaos is wreaking havoc in the Great Thousand World. Will the Celestial Court handle this matter?" This heaven-opening Daluo immortal, upon hearing this, snorted. How would the Celestial Court handle it? Chaosa creatures that can survive are basically favored by the great powers of the Celestial Court. I have already detected the matter of Chaos Grudge Luo, affecting several dozen Great Thousand Worlds. Yet there are no actions from the Celestial Court. Clearly there is a calculation, we should just pretend not to see. Another Daluo immortal spoke. Indeed, the 3,000 Great Worlds seem to be the heavenly Daos main stage, but more like the Celestial Court's breeding ground. Nothing that happens within the 3,000 Great Worlds can escape their eyes. If they don't act, it indicates it's their doing. Others followed suit, expressing great dissatisfaction with the Celestial Court. Guan greatly admired them. These people truly dared to speak. They were not afraid of this reaching the ears of the Celestial Court. After their conversation ended, Hongya pulled Guan to a secluded place and whispered, "Are you curious as to why they dare discuss the Celestial Court so boldly?" Guan nodded. "Because the endless Tao mountain is not affected by celestial Tao destiny. You should be able to feel it, and the immortal gods who can come here aren't bound by the Celestial Court's rules, so it's no harm if they're overheard." Hongya explained. Guan curiously asked, "How does the Misty Immortal Court view the Celestial Court?" The Misty Immortal Court has produced many immortal gods, recognized as a subordinate sect by the Celestial Court. Hongya sneered, "How else can they see it? Outwardly they still have to flatter the Celestial Court. Within the heavenly Tao, no force dares to oppose the Celestial Court. Those who resist have already been obliterated. No matter how powerful, they will eventually be destroyed by heavenly might. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 656. Reincarnation of Yuan Luo. Hongya was clearly quite discontent with the Celestial Court. When Guan asked, he opened up immediately and began to speak eloquently. It turns out that, although the Misty Immortal Court has a path for ascending to immortality, it comes at a significant cost. Every 10,000 years, it must offer a vast amount of resources to the Celestial Court and erect divine statues of the Heavenly Court immortals in every immortal mansion. Those who successfully enter the immortal class, although they don't sever ties with the Misty Immortal Court, become arrogant and treat the others as slaves. Through Hongya, Guan gained more understanding of the Misty Immortal Court. Although the destiny of the Misty Immortal Court is not as powerful as the Celestial Court, it is still a formidable existence. Whether there is a perfect Taoist Great Luo immortal realm within it is hard to say at the moment. He can't fully calculate it. The inability to calculate suggests that such an existence might indeed be there. The fact that it can nurture an emperor of eternal life is enough to prove the deep foundation of the Misty Immortal Court. Hongya was quite impressed with Guan, feeling as if they were old friends at first meeting. He even invited Guan to visit the Misty Immortal Court in the future, handing him a token named the Red Domain Immortal Token. With this token, Guan could enter the Misty Immortal Court and be honored as a distinguished guest. The Misty Immortal Court possesses numerous immortal domains. Hongya-Zi is the pavilion master of the Red Domain Immortal Mansion and holds significant power within the Misty Immortal Court. Guan accepted without reservation, saying he would definitely visit him. Afterward the two parted ways. Guan was merely a clone. He did not plan to leave Endless Dao Mountain just yet. Instead, he intended to find a suitable Dao Mountain to settle down on. He didn't need to return to his true self. His true self could already access his memories and even directly control him. At the same time, far away, in the Taoist field of the beginningless, Guan began to ponder whether or not to visit the Misty Immortal Court to see Hongya-Zi. Given his current cultivation level, even if he encountered trouble in the Misty Immortal Court, he could easily retreat unscathed. Forget it, there's no need to rush into this matter, especially since he has no pressing reason to visit the Misty Immortal Court. First, he should elevate his cultivation to the perfection realm of the Tao Extreme Daoyuo Immortal before considering it. Guan closed his eyes, laying on a rock to bask in the sun, while his thoughts wandered to the omnipresent Tao rules. Atop the magnificent golden furnace, Huang Feng Immortal Monarch sat cross-legged in mid-air, hands resting on his knees, silently practicing his arts. CTH Novel, F. Iyer. NT website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. A golden light appeared behind him, manifesting a figure. It was the celestial calming god. The celestial calming god clasped his fists in salute and said, "Immortal monarch, Chaos Grudge Luo has become a significant force. If we don't suppress him soon, I'm afraid it will cause great trouble. Under the heavens, a higher power will surely notice." Huang Feng Immortal Monarch, with his back turned, did not open his eyes as he asked, "Has the power of the Chaos Grudge Luo invaded the celestial spirit great world?" The celestial calming god frowned and said, "Yes, but his power has vanished. It's unclear whether he withdrew or if a great power intervened." Over the years, he had kept an eye on Chaos Grudge Luo, and was quite surprised by the anomalies in the celestial spirit great world. He hadn't consulted the celestial spirit god, aware of the past of the celestial spirit great world, feeling that there was a great cause and effect in which he dared not indulge. Now, hearing Huang Feng Immortal Monarch mention the celestial spirit great world, his vigilance only heightened. He must absolutely avoid getting entangled with the causes and effects of the celestial spirit great world. Upon hearing his words, Huang Feng Immortal Monarch opened his eyes. He gazed down at the world within the furnace, contemplating something unknown. For a long time. Begin closing the net. You're responsible for eliminating the power of Chaos Grudge Luo. I will request stronger forces of the heavenly Tao to capture him. Huang Feng Immortal Monarch spoke, allowing the celestial calming god to breathe a sigh of relief as he accepted the order and departed. After the celestial calming god's departure, the area fell silent, with Huang Feng Immortal Monarch's eyes flickering, pondering something in his heart. Time passed gently. Since the teaching session at Endless Dao Mountain ended, Guan had not encountered any major events, and life became leisurely once more. The dark clouds looming over the world had dissipated, though conflicts in the human world persisted. After Guan eradicated the power of Chaos Grudge Luo, within 100 years, the Chenkuan sect regained peace and began to send disciples out again to save the world. In a blink of an eye. 10,000 years passed in an instant. At over 17 million years old, Guan had accumulated 16 trillion years of lifespan, using 8 trillion years of lifespan to progress from the early to the middle stage of the Tao Extreme Daoyuo Immortal Realm, excluding the depletion from the lifespan barrier. Therefore, he planned to reach 20 trillion years of lifespan before attempting to break through to the later stage. Until he reaches the perfection realm of the Tao Extreme Daoyuo Immortal, he has no intention of pursuing the functional threshold of 100 trillion years of lifespan. In the spring of that year, while Guan was in the courtyard writing with his brush, he suddenly looked up, his eyes carrying an unusual expression. Shen Zhan, who was playing the zither beside him, noticed his anomaly and asked, "What is it? Has something happened to the Chenkuan sect?" Where Guan was looking was precisely in the direction of the Chenkuan sect. "Nothing much, just that a disciple with extraordinary talent is about to be born in the Chenkuan sect," Guan casually replied, then withdrew his gaze and continued writing. Shen Zhan became curious and probed further. How does he compare to Emperor Tianhong or Zhao Rushan? As the millennia passed, the conflicts in the human world had neared their end. The enmity between Emperor Tianhong and Zhao Rushan was renowned across the world, both being the strongest prodigies of different eras. Now, as they clashed like water and fire, the world was curious as to who would emerge victorious in the end. Perhaps even more so, Guan said, with profound implication. Emperor Tianhong was an immortal god reincarnation, while the disciple mentioned was the reincarnation of Chaos Grudge Luo. Chaos Grudge Luo didn't seem to have reincarnated of his own volition. It seemed he was cast into the reincarnation of the celestial spirit great world by some powerful being, conveniently ending up in the Chenkuan sect, which was certainly no coincidence. It appears that behind Taiyi Immortal Monarch or Profound Star Immortal Monarch, there exists an even more powerful presence keeping an eye on Guan. Although separated by celestial Tao destiny, Guan found it difficult to deduce. However, the other party didn't dare act rashly even when facing his pre-breakthrough self, so naturally, now that he has broken through, he would be even less panicked. If that's the case, the Chenkuan sect is finally going to rise. Shen Zhan commented, without giving much thought, but rather with a sense of amazement. The Chenkuan sect is thriving but too young compared to sects that have been around for millions, tens of millions, or even longer. In all aspects, it falls far behind. If it could give birth to a disciple with talent surpassing even that of Emperor Tianhong or Zhao Rushan, it might possibly close that gap. Having spent tens of thousands of years near the Chenkuan sect, Shen Zhan had developed feelings for it. Any Wushiji disciple visiting the Chenkuan sect would be received as an honored guest, without any incidents of disrespect thus far. The leadership of the Chenkuan sect holds Wuxia in high regard and dares not take it lightly. The Chenkuan sect will rise eventually, sooner or later, and they will also fall eventually. Guan said as he continued to write. He had even given up on the supreme sect, so he wouldn't be constantly sheltering the Chenkuan sect. Shen Zhan did not question Guan's words but instead asked, if Emperor Tianhong were to return, would you really take him as a disciple? Guan replied, I do not enjoy breaking my word. In the Taoist field of the beginningless, there were no major secrets to keep. The dojo itself could be moved or rebuilt. That Emperor Tianhong could kneel for so many years was enough to prove his character. What if he was an immortal god reincarnation? Perhaps Guan could learn more about the celestial court from Emperor Tianhong. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 657. Unbeatable Emperor. 16 years later, a major event occurred in the Chenkuan sect. A 16-year-old male disciple was unusually accepted as a disciple by the sect hierarch, with the intention of grooming him to be the next sect hierarch. This matter had the approval of the 4 grand elders, and various rumors spread within the sect and even to the entire world. This boy's name is Yuan Luo. He didn't originally have this name, but after his first qi absorption cultivation, he changed it to this name. During his first qi absorption, he successfully established his foundation, shocking the cultivator who was instructing him, and the news quickly reached the higher-ups of the Chenkuan sect. Thereafter, Yuan Luo took only a year to condense a golden core, and at 16, he was already at the nascent soul realm, with a cultivation speed that was astonishingly fast. Yi Qingshan discussed for several days and decided to nurture Yuan Luo in the same manner as training a prodigy in the Tao court. They are determined to cultivate Yuan Luo to be comparable to Zhao Rushan or Emperor Tianhong, but in my opinion, they are relying on Wuxi's protection. Without Wuxi, raising disciples like this would only lead to a premature demise. An Exian spoke while standing next to Guan, who was fishing by the edge of a lake created by the ghost mother of Ephemera, which was stocked with many nimble fish for his amusement. It doesn't matter. Whether we admit it or not, the outside world sees Wuxi as the pillar of the Chenkuan sect, and indeed we've done many things. Guan said, staring at the lake's surface. As his cultivation level became higher and the years he experienced became more numerous, Guan's mindset also transformed. He focused more on his own feelings. An Exian curiously asked, Master, what's the origin of Yuan Luo, with such incredible talent? He must be the reincarnation of a great power, right? Yes, in his past life he was called Chaos Grudge Luo, causing havoc across many great thousand worlds. The previous calamity in the human world was caused by his power. He was likely captured by the immortal gods and cast into reincarnation, ending up in this plight. Guan didn't hide anything, briefly explaining Yuan Luo's background. An Exian frowned and asked, "Actions of the immortal gods? Such a wicked entity reincarnated within the Chenkuan sect, wouldn't there be some scheme involved?" Guan glanced at her and smiled. "Indeed, there might be some hidden scheme, but such schemes have never ceased. If you can't see through them yourself, it means you're still not strong enough." Seeing him still able to smile, an Exian knew everything was under his control. She couldn't help but ask, "Master, do you need me to do anything?" "Let nature take its course." Guan didn't say much more. He believed an Exian would understand his meaning. After spending so many years together, the two had developed a high level of rapport, and some things didn't need to be repeatedly explained. An Exian no longer talked about Yuan Luo but shifted the topic to Emperor Tianhong and Zhao Rushan. "I heard the Dao court plans to cultivate Zhao Rushan to become a Taoist emperor. Didn't you say a Taoist emperor must prove themselves on the path of the Great Tao? Could it be that Zhao Rushan is heading to the path of the Great Tao next?" An Exian was very interested in the Taoist emperor, and wondered whether a Taoist emperor at the same realm could rival her immortal emperor's eye. "He is destined to go and is fated to become a Taoist emperor," Guan replied. When mentioning the Taoist emperor, he couldn't help but shift his focus to the path of the Great Tao, observing Ji Xiaoyu and Xiao Lan. Search * the novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Ji Xiaoyu had been fighting for many years, and with his destiny forming, he was getting closer to becoming a Taoist emperor, while Xiao Lan had also started to embark on the emperor road. After participating in the Taoist emperor's competition, their cultivation grew quickly, able to strengthen through battles. Xiao Lan had already reached the divine thought true immortal realm, catching up with Tian Hao far off in the misty immortal court. Ji Xiaoyu was even assaulting the heaven-encompassing free immortal realm and, in terms of strength, he was now stronger than Yuan Songzi. After years of battling side by side, Yuan Songzi had successfully persuaded Ji Xiaoyu to join the Dao court. If she and Xiao Lan succeeded, the Dao court would have two Taoist emperors, giving it the confidence to stand against the 3,000 great worlds outside the celestial spirit great world. Guan could hear the voice of Yuan Songzi's mind, feeling that his mood was far more excited than it appeared on his face. Ji Xiaoyu was cultivating and preparing for battle, and his next opponent was an unparalleled prodigy who had achieved 1,000 victories at the same realm on the path of the Great Tao, the unbeatable emperor from the primordial emperor domain. The unbeatable emperor ranked among the top 5 illustrious prodigies in the primordial emperor domain, and his momentum was extremely strong. Guan had already calculated the result of this battle and wasn't surprised. The original master of the immortal emperor's eye, the Stealing Heaven Emperor, came from the primordial emperor domain. This person founded the Stealing Heaven Immortal sect, even provoking the celestial court's pursuit, proving the terrifying extent of his Tao practice. The deep foundation of the primordial emperor domain was unmatched by the great thousand worlds. "Master, do you think we need to foster a Taoist emperor in Wuxia?" An Exian asked expectantly. Although Wuxia wasn't a sect in the conventional sense, as the senior disciple, an Exian hoped Wuxia would grow stronger. "It depends on personal goals. I don't demand it. Although a Taoist emperor is indeed powerful, the path is very difficult." Guan spoke softly, with the memory of the Emperor of Eternal Life in him. He knew how arduous the path to becoming a Taoist emperor was. Looking at the disciples within the dojo, to be honest, he hadn't yet seen anyone with the potential to become a Taoist emperor, even Xiao Lan, who relied on his covert protection while outside. If Xiao Lan were to venture out alone, she would have died long ago. Moreover, he could sense that if he continued to aid Xiao Lan, she would never be able to become a Taoist emperor, no matter how many times she won. The great Tao's will on the path of the great Tao is unfathomable. After listening, an Xian fell into contemplation, vaguely understanding the implication behind Gu An's words. At this moment, Gu An's fishing rod moved, and he began to reel it in with effort, his arms trembling. Watching Guan struggle as if he were immortal, an Xian covered her mouth and laughed, thinking her master truly loved to act. In a bright palace, Ji Xiaoyu sat meditating in front of a blue crystal, the crystal reflecting her silhouette. Yuan Songzi approached, stopping in front of Ji Xiaoyu, hesitating to speak. With her eyes closed, Ji Xiaoyu asked, "Speak your mind, Ting Master." Yuan Songzi took a deep breath and said, "Give up, your next opponent is unbeatable." Upon hearing this, Ji Xiaoyu opened her eyes, staring steadily at him. Yuan Songzi continued, "I've investigated. The unbeatable emperor not only achieved 1,000 victories, but he also swept through the peers in the primordial emperor domain. A Taoist emperor once fought him at the same realm and was defeated. To defeat a Taoist emperor before stepping onto the emperor road, even if the Taoist emperor suppressed his realm, is still unbelievable." The mere thought of it filled Yuan Songzi with fear. He feared Ji Xiaoyu would not believe it, so he added, "On the path of the great Tao, everyone believes the unbeatable emperor is destined to become a Taoist emperor. Your matchup, dictated by the Taoist will, is in misfortune. Avoiding the battle might mean wasted efforts, but at least you'll live. The struggle for the Taoist emperor is no child's play. 9 out of 10 losers die. Throughout the years, many prodigies have fallen at Ji Xiaoyu's hand." Unfazed, Ji Xiaoyu asked, "Ting Master, have you ever considered that the path to becoming a Taoist emperor is cruel and cannot be filled with pushovers? If I give up this time, when I next reach this point, I will face another prodigy as formidable as the unbeatable emperor. If I always give up, what is the point of walking the path of the great Tao? To have the Taoist recognition, one must defeat the opponents selected by the Tao." These words made Yuan Songzi frown. He felt they made sense. Perhaps he had indeed underestimated the difficulty of becoming a Taoist emperor. Thinking that Xiao Lan might also face an opponent like the unbeatable emperor made him suddenly feel lost. Perhaps he had acted too hastily. Right now, the Tao court may not be able to nurture a Taoist emperor. Ji Xiaoyu looked at Yuan Songzi, smiling with high spirits, and said gently, "Moreover, Ting Master, how dare you assert that I will certainly lose? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 658 The Power of the Emperor Clan. The day of the duel between Ji Xiaoyu and the unbeatable emperor finally arrived, with the Tao court's members trailing Ji Xiaoyu to a meteorite. Gazing around, the void was dim, with countless meteorites scattered across it. Above the Tao court's party, colorful splendor surged across the void ceiling, illuminating it without diminishing its shadowy undertone. Ji Xiaoyu stepped into the void, while the others waited on the ground. Xiao Lan gazed at Ji Xiaoyu with concern. Having spent many years with him, Ji Xiaoyu had taken good care of her, even teaching her spells and divine skills. In her heart, Ji Xiaoyu was like a mentor. Knowing the power of the unbeatable emperor, how could she not worry for Ji Xiaoyu? The void was vast, silent, and oppressive. Although the unbeatable emperor had not yet appeared, this void was already filled with an immense sense of oppression. After Ji Xiaoyu distanced herself from the meteorite where the Tao court was, she stood silently in the void, waiting. A long time passed. "Ha!" A shout echoed through the void, disrupting everyone's thoughts. SAR the Novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Following that shout, more shouts arose, one after another, growing louder and more imposing, as if millions were roaring in unison, shaking the heavens with overwhelming oppression. Everyone from the Tao court tensed, their gazes directed toward the depths of the void, where a red radiance appeared, rapidly expanding. Xiao Lan squinted and saw an imposing figure, akin to a war god, striding out from the vast flames within the red radiance. The unbeatable emperor. He wore a dark red chain armor, with a red scarf around his waist, his trousers wide, billowing in the wind. His face was handsome but indifferent, and he wore a deep red coronet on his forehead. His long black hair danced wildly, his commanding presence threatening to shake the heavens and earth. He treaded on the red flames, moving with the grace of a dragon and a tiger, his aura seemingly distorting the void. Behind him, countless figures emerged from the red flames, each with an extraordinary aura. Although they remained silent, the deafening shouts continued to echo infinitely through the void. The Tao court's members looked on from afar, their faces grim, their hearts in their throats. "Is the primordial emperor domain really this formidable?" An elder of the Tao court muttered, his face full of shock. Yuan Songzi took a deep breath and said, This is but one emperor clan of the primordial emperor domain. The might of the primordial emperor domain is beyond our imagination. In the great thousand world, only a few great worlds can barely compare. These words fueled further fantasies about the primordial emperor domain among the crowd. Meanwhile, the unbeatable emperor raised his right hand, fiery flames gathering in his palm, forming a long spear, several times his own length, with a massive spearhead, as if a Qilin spat out the spear blade, surrounded by a divine beast's phantom, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. He looked at Ji Xiaoyu from afar and said, "Are you the reincarnation Tao Emperor? Bearing the name of reincarnation, do not disappoint me." As his words fell, he thrust his spear toward Ji Xiaoyu. A fiery line suddenly shot out, seemingly splitting the entire void in two. The red flame divine beast phantom roared silently before Ji Xiaoyu, the wave of qi force blowing through her long hair, revealing her cold and perfect face. Ji Xiaoyu remained silent, raising her right hand as rolling gray mist emerged from her palm, transforming into dragons coiling around her. An exceptional showdown between Taoist emperors was about to erupt. Yuan Songzi watched the unbeatable emperor, his eyes filled with fear. He could sense that the unbeatable emperor was still at the profound Yuan-free immortal realm. Yet his aura gave Yuan Songzi, who was at the realm's perfection, a horrifying sense of impending annihilation. He felt that the unbeatable emperor could kill him with a single stroke. This filled him with dread for the unbeatable emperor and increased his concern for Ji Xiaoyu. At the Chenkuan sect's main city, around the gigantic battle platform, hundreds of thousands of disciples stood on the stone steps, observing the fight on the platform. Gu An and his drinking buddies were also there, while an Xian was in the distance, sitting with the Chenkuan sect's upper echelons. An Xian maintained a poised demeanor, not looking at Gu An, but dispassionately overlooking the combat on the platform. Yi Qingshan put down his teacup, turned to an Xian, and asked with a smile, "Senior, how is this child's talent?" Yuan Luo had just transformed into a divinity transformation realm and was battling a profound heart realm disciple. Between the divinity transformation realm and the profound heart realm lay the void crossing and fusion realms, and the Chenkuan sect was not a mundane sect of the past. Joining without Nervan-level cultivation showed one was young and exceptionally talented. Even two great realms lower, Yuan Luo still had the upper hand. His talent was evident to the naked eye, even astonishing those disciples at the immortal realm. An Xian replied, "Indeed impressive, able to contend with any peerless genius in the world." Yuan Luo appeared only 16 or 17, still youthful, yet with one palm, he severely injured his opponent, rendering them unable to fight. Floating in the air, he looked up to the pavilion where the upper echelons were and loudly declared, "I want to challenge a higher realm." His words caused an uproar among the crowd. The observing disciples had not expected Yuan Luo to continue challenging, increasing their anticipation of him. Grand Elder Lin Chuan signaled with his hand, and a Mahayana realm disciple stepped onto the platform with a sword. Yuan Luo bowed to the opponent, then initiated the attack first. "This kid is so formidable. No wonder the higher-ups are promoting him so much," remarked one of Gu An's friends, prompting discussions among the other friends. Guan was not surprised by Yuan Luo's performance. This child's mana was bound by his realm, yet his chi blood force was overly vigorous. Though appearing at the divinity transformation realm, he in fact rivaled Nirvana. While watching the spectacle, Guan was also focused on Ji Xiaoyu's duel on the path of the Great Tao. Ji Xiaoyu was not a match for the unbeatable emperor. Despite giving it her all, she was unable to defeat him yet managed to wound him, surprising the unbeatable emperor and the great powers of the primordial emperor domain. Guan would not assist Ji Xiaoyu to defeat the unbeatable emperor, as it held no significance. His goal was to ensure Ji Xiaoyu survived. In the final clash of divine skills, Ji Xiaoyu was defeated, her body obliterated, leaving only her soul, barely alive. At this point, the destiny she accumulated on the path of the Great Tao flowed entirely to the unbeatable emperor. "You are stronger than my previous opponents, and your understanding of the path of reincarnation is quite impressive. I think I won't forget you for a long time in the future." The voice of the unbeatable emperor resonated through the void, still fierce in aura, with the wounds on his cheeks making him even more imposing. Holding his long spear, he approached Ji Xiaoyu's soul. All around, the void was filled with smoke and clouds, remnants of shattered meteorites. Seeing the unbeatable emperor about to annihilate her completely, Yuan Songzi hurriedly flew in front of Ji Xiaoyu, urgently saying, "You've already won, so why push it to the extreme? Please grant her a chance to live." The unbeatable emperor slightly lifted his chin, looking down at Yuan Songzi with contempt, saying, "Since when did worms dare to obstruct a Taoist emperor?" In the distance, the great powers of the primordial emperor domain stepped forward, their boundless might suffocating Yuan Songzi. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 659. A palm transcending the great Tao. The words of the unbeatable emperor were like a series of thunderclaps, echoing endlessly, causing the cultivators of the Tao court to change their expressions drastically. Although they feared the unbeatable emperor, hearing his words still made them feel a great sense of humiliation, for Yuan Songzi was the master of the Tao court. Xiao Lan gritted her teeth, wanting to rush over and fight alongside Yuan Songzi, but was stopped by a female elder. "Don't act impulsively. Don't burden the Ting master," the female elder said in a deep voice, her gaze towards Yuan Songzi revealing her uncontrollable unease. Yuan Songzi was insulted by the unbeatable emperor but didn't get angry. Following the unbeatable emperor's words, he said, "Since you consider us insects, why go to the trouble of stomping on insects? Not to mention the imperial clan behind, even if all of them attacked together, they would still not be a match for the unbeatable emperor alone. On this path of the great Tao, a prodigy not only needs personal strength but also a sufficiently strong force to support them." The beautiful dream that Yuan Songzi had was completely shattered at this moment. Ji Xiaoyu and Xiao Lan lacked the talent, and the Tao court didn't have the foundation to escort a Taoist emperor. Even if humiliated, he had to protect Ji Xiaoyu as much as possible because he knew very well that if they did nothing, they would also be doomed. The Tao intent of the great powers of the imperial clan had already sealed this void, leaving them with no escape. The unbeatable emperor's lips curled into a contemptuous smile as he said, "I am fulfilling her, losing on the emperor road, damaging the Tao heart, and leading a life of nothing but defeat. What meaning does it have?" His footsteps did not pause, and with each step, the killing intent grew stronger. When his words fell, the pressure brought onto Yuan Songzi reached its peak, making him unable to speak, only able to look at him in terror. "Spare them, I am willing to die." Ji Xiaoyu's voice came from behind Yuan Songzi, calm, without a trace of anger or fear. The unbeatable emperor's smile became wild, and he raised the spear in his hand, pointing its tip at Yuan Songzi, yet his gaze fixed on Ji Xiaoyu. He sneered disdainfully. "It's over. You're all doomed. Setting foot on the emperor road, you should have been mentally prepared. If not, then learn the lesson of arrogance." His right hand suddenly loosened. Boom! The long spear in his hand burst forth with a terrifying momentum, as if carrying a storm, unstoppably killing towards Yuan Songzi. Everything happened too fast. Even though both parties were of the same realm, Yuan Songzi had no time to react, only able to widen his eyes. When the spear stopped in front of him, his whole body froze, feeling as if even his divine soul was fixed in place, unable to move. He hadn't experienced such despair in a long time. Faced with the divine spear, he truly felt he was going to die, and there was no hope for reincarnation. His mind blank, he instinctively looked at the unbeatable emperor, discovering that he frowned. The cultivators of the Tao court were extremely tense, seeing Yuan Songzi not dead. Hope ignited in their hearts, thinking that the unbeatable emperor temporarily changed his mind. Everyone's gaze was fixed on the unbeatable emperor. The unbeatable emperor frowned deeply, glancing in another direction. He yelled in a deep voice, "What master from where is interfering with me?" "A master?" The Tao court side was all bewildered, realizing the unbeatable emperor was not sparing them out of mercy but that there was other assistance. Compared to the extremely arrogant unbeatable emperor, they preferred the unknown helper. The cultivators of the Tao court were all excited, trying hard to restrain their emotions, not daring to breathe even a single breath. Xiao Lan also felt surprised, her heart filled with curiosity. Who would rescue them at this moment? "Let people off when you can. Besides, you have no enmity." A hoarse voice echoed through the void, causing displeasure to flash in the unbeatable emperor's eyes. When Ji Xiaoyu heard this voice, her eyes dimmed. Although he had changed his voice, she immediately knew who the owner of the voice was. She didn't want that person to see her so embarrassed. The unbeatable emperor did not respond, but the great powers of the imperial clan could not remain silent. Does fellow Daoist want to challenge the imperial clan? If fellow Daoist is this girl's support, why not appear earlier? Her destiny should not be like this. If passing by, why entangle in this karma? If wanting to save them, state your relationship, don't hide in the dark. With such cultivation, do you not know the rules of the Emperor Road? The dignified voices rose one after another, all very assertive, seemingly not taking the one who intervened seriously. Far off in the Chenkuan sect, Guan sighed. How many years has it been? It's rare to encounter someone so stubborn. Sir, the novel fire. Net ** website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Guan, through deduction, knew the reason they wanted to eradicate was to prevent the secrets of the unbeatable emperor's divine skills from being exposed, leaving no threat for the unbeatable emperor's future. The reason was sufficient, but having intervened, would he still fight to the death for this reason? Ultimately, it's still too arrogant. Guan could see at a glance the source of this imperial clan. The strongest was no more than a Miaojin Daluo immortal, and that was an ancient monster hidden for unknown billions of years. Having thought that, Guan's gaze turned cold. Just then, a strand of someone's hair drifted in front of him. He raised his hand and waved, destroying the hair. The surrounding observing disciples were too excited, all discussing Yuan Luo's performance, and even his drinking and meat friends on his left and right didn't notice his actions. However, Guan's wave was not casual. The mana of a Dao Extreme Daluo immortal passed through the celestial spirit great world in an incredible manner, entered the path of the great Dao, then crossed layers of cosmic planes, arriving at the void where Ji Xiaoyu, Xiaolan and the others were. The questions from the imperial clan had not yet fallen, and the unbeatable emperor was still staring intensely at Ji Xiaoyu. The Dao court side was nervously waiting, with Yuan Songzi unable to recover from the earlier shocking experience. Suddenly, the entire void became bright, darkness was banished, and everyone instinctively looked in one direction, only to see deep within the void, it was as bright as daylight, with an incomparably majestic golden giant hand coming at them. Facing this golden giant hand, any existence appeared insignificant. The unbeatable emperor's face changed drastically. He was horrified to find himself unable to move. Not only him, but the other great powers of the imperial clan were the same, all seemingly petrified, dumbly watching the golden giant hand approach. Ji Xiaoyu's pupils widened, while Yuan Songzi and the cultivators of the Dao court were left open-mouthed. They couldn't move either, only able to see the golden giant hand getting closer and closer. As the hand neared, the outline of the golden giant hand could not fit into their vision. In front of such a giant hand, they only felt shock, their emotions indescribable. Under their gaze, the golden giant hand seemed to replace the void, lightly waving towards them. The wind from its palm blew, turning the great powers of the imperial clan directly into ashes. Even the unbeatable emperor gradually perished. His expression before death one of disbelief, seemingly not expecting such an end for himself. After waving the hand to annihilate the imperial clan, the golden giant hand became illusory, and the strong light it emitted gradually weakened. Yet the entire void remained in silence. All the cultivators of the Dao court still held expressions of astonishment. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 660. A lifespan of 10 trillion years. As the Emperor clan and the unbeatable emperor vanished into ash, the golden giant hand dissipated, the void gradually returning to dimness, while the people of the Dao court remained in silence, unable to awaken from their shock. The pure-hearted Xiaolan was the first to break the silence. She couldn't help but ask, what realm was the senior who acted just now? The legendary heaven-encompassing free immortal? The cultivators of the Dao court awoke one after another, starting to bow in all directions, expressing gratitude to the person who intervened. Yuan Songzi also came to his senses, loudly exclaimed, I am Yuan Songzi from the Dao court of the celestial spirit great world, grateful for the senior's assistance. I wonder what can we do for the senior? There is no such thing as a favor for no reason. Yuan Songzi reflected on his connections, unable to think of such a powerful entity, He could only ponder what the other party might want them to do. However, no one answered him. Ji Xiaoyu remained silent, sat down cross-legged on the spot, and began restoring her body. Meanwhile, in the Chenkuan sect, Guan was occupied by a series of prompts in his vision. To deal with the Emperor clan, he used his own mana, not relying on avatars, thus he could seize life force, especially since the Emperor clan lacked celestial court destiny. Successfully captured 20,239,008,276 years of life from Emperor Chongyuan, early stage of innate golden immortal realm. Successfully captured 809,244,623 years of life from Gudong, late stage of heaven-encompassing free immortal realm. Successfully captured 209,872,307,762 years of life from Emperor Han Tian, middle stage of Hengtian golden immortal realm. Successfully captured 70,982,763 years of life from Qin Li, perfect innate golden immortal realm. Successfully captured 249,827,206,383 years of life from Ji Zun, middle stage of Tai Ching golden immortal realm. Looking at his skyrocketing lifespan, Guan felt agitated. No wonder those with reincarnation bodies couldn't resist the temptation of seizing life force. He now felt an impulse to go on a killing spree, but he knew he mustn't do that. Excessive slaughter and rapidly growing stronger would attract powerful entities far beyond his cultivation level to intervene. This time, attacking the Emperor clan was justified and wouldn't attract attention from being surpassing Dao Extreme Daluo Immortal. The lifespans of these powerful figures within the Emperor clan varied. The strongest Tai Ching Golden Immortal provided him with a lifespan not much higher than the Hengtian Golden Immortal, yet overall, it still yielded him substantial gains. The Emperor clan only had one Tai Ching Golden Immortal protecting the unbeatable Emperor. Most others were heaven-encompassing free immortals and innate golden immortals, a total of several hundred. Your lifespan has surpassed 10 trillion years for the first time, starting a random lifespan function upgrade. Your life expectancy prediction function has been upgraded. Life expectancy prediction upgrade successful. Life expectancy prediction automatically detects causality. When a living being bears hostility toward your true self or clones, a prompt will appear. It automatically deduces causality. If someone's causality conflicts with yours, a prompt will appear. Using this prompt does not consume lifespan, but conducting a lifespan detection on the opponent does. Witnessing the prompts before him, Gu An's eyes changed. Unlike the previous life expectancy prediction, this time the function covers his clones and can deduce causality. Deducing causality is quite domineering, implying potential enemies could be deduced. This function has both pros and cons. The advantage is identifying more enemies. The downside is the pressure of knowing enemies in advance, while the enemies remain oblivious and carefree. Of course, the most important thing is that his lifespan has broken through 10 trillion years. He can proceed to a breakthrough. Gu An's mood became joyful. Once all the lifespan prompts ceased, he brought up the attribute panel for viewing. Name, Guan. Lifespan, 172, 971/14, 073, 593, 224, 087. Physique, primordial Dao creation body. Cultivation level, middle stage of Dao Extreme Daluo Immortal Realm. It's no wonder the Emperor clan. Guan acknowledged the Emperor clan behind the unbeatable Emperor as indeed powerful. Tianqian Emperor will form a causal hatred with you, destined to become your enemy. Would you like to perform a lifespan detection on them? Sir the Oval Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Ancestor Chuzi will form a causal hatred with you, destined to become your enemy. Would you like to perform a lifespan detection on them? Han Long will form a causal hatred with you, destined to become your enemy. Would you like to perform a lifespan detection on them? Another series of prompts emerged wildly, causing Gu An's eyelids to twitch. Indeed, the new life expectancy prediction is a double-edged sword. With so many potential enemies, if he checked each one, could his 14 trillion years of lifespan endure? Guan chose one by one for lifespan detection. Upon selecting a name, the lifespan years to be consumed would display, then he would confirm. He had no intention of consuming lifespan, but from the lifespan consumption prompts, he could gauge the strength of the enemies. The Emperor clan's greatest support was one major realm lower than him, so it wasn't worth using lifespan detection on them. Even so, this function could still reveal the Emperor clan's foundation to him. For a period following this, lifespan prompts repeatedly appeared. When Yuan Luo defeated the Mahayana realm disciple to the cheering of the audience, the prompts before him continued. The connections behind the unbeatable emperor were truly astonishing. Guan was secretly alarmed. Chenkuan sect hierarch Yi Qing Shan began to praise Yuan Luo, then spoke of the sect's millennial grand plan ahead, stirring the disciples' emotions. After the gathering, Guan politely declined invitations from companions for food and drink and left alone. On the other side, Ji Xiaoyu had restored her body, though her aura was weak and her cultivation level somewhat diminished. The cultivators of the Dao court surrounded her, their faces full of concern. Xiao Lan couldn't help but ask, "Senior, how do you feel? How can we assist?" The pale-faced Ji Xiaoyu opened her eyes and said, "I am unscathed, but my path to the Taoist emperor has been completely severed. Unbeatable emperor's divine skills are indeed tyrannical. It will take me many years to completely dispel the power of his divine skills." Everyone felt their hearts sink, unable to accept it. They had traversed the path of the great Tao together for so many years, albeit thinking about the possibility of Ji Xiaoyu's defeat. Seeing her fall in such a manner filled them with a sense of helplessness. The Emperor Road is indeed not something they can contend for. Yuan Songzi took a deep breath and said, "Return to the Dao court to recuperate." He looked at Xiao Lan and said, "You have seen it too, the contention of the Emperor Road is fraught with peril. Before you are defeated, why not stop for now?" Xiao Lan nodded lightly at his words. She too realized the vast gap between herself and Emperor Road geniuses and felt a bit worried for her brother Gu after being away from the celestial spirit great world for so many years. And Elda couldn't help but sigh and said, "I wonder what kind of deity that senior was, to directly annihilate the Emperor clan to save us. The path of the great Tao is indeed one mountain higher than the other. Heavens beyond heavens." Recalling the fierce battle earlier, they still felt a chilling thrill and an inexplicable excitement. In my opinion, the Emperor clan brought it upon themselves, being overly arrogant. That senior perhaps didn't intend to destroy the Emperor clan, but these fellows gave no leeway and were too arrogant. A Dao court genius couldn't help but say, filled with admiration and fervor, "The golden giant hand will be the goal of his life pursuit from now on. Even if he cannot reach that realm in this life, he will cultivate in that direction. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 661, Perfection Realm, the feelings of the celestial spirit god. After lamenting for a while, Yuan Songzi led everyone back to the celestial spirit great world. The journey ahead was long, and they dared not let down their guard. Soon, everyone fell into silence, each with their own thoughts. The image of that golden giant hand lingered in their minds, unable to dissipate. Even Xiao Lan was reminiscing. This kind of power was too incredible. She must tell Brother Gu about it when she returns. Thinking of this, Xiao Lan's mind was filled with the sound and appearance of Guan, eager to return home. On the other side, Guan left the Chenkuan sect and went to an unoccupied mountain forest. At this moment, prompts kept appearing before his eyes. The number had already exceeded 1,000,000. Guan suspected that it wasn't just the unbeatable emperor's karmic enemies, but possibly other types of karma as well. He patiently waited. Once all prompts were gone, he would find a place to break through all at once, reaching the perfect Taoist Great Luo immortal realm. During the waiting process, he was also deducing. He could confirm that the lifespan predictive ability was stronger than his, but how much stronger was yet to be determined. Many names in the prompts were temporarily untraceable because there was no direct causality. How many people with the same name and surname existed? Even with lifespan prediction, Guan did not intend to eliminate his enemies in advance because karma could change. Just because someone was destined to be an enemy didn't mean he should start a killing spree. The new lifespan prediction served more as a warning. The more enemies there were, the more cautious he had to be. The higher the realm, the easier it was to lose oneself in one's own power, believing one could do anything. Although Guan was wary of many beings, he did not feel that his current life was suffocating. On the contrary, he felt happy with his life. He preferred playing in the human world within his own small domain to fighting. After waiting for an hour, no more prompts appeared, leaving Guan feeling helpless. His karmic enemies numbered in the tens of millions, which was absurd. However, judging by the lifespan consumption, not many posed a threat to him. Guan immediately performed the lifespan breakthrough. Even though he could go to the endless Tao Mountain, he feared leaving traces and being discovered by unknown entities, so he cautiously used the lifespan breakthrough. After all, a round trip only cost 20 billion years of lifespan, which was a drizzle for him now. Safety was most important. Out of 9 prompts, Guan chose to go to the Hongmeng Great World for his breakthrough, and his figure disappeared into the forest. As time passed, the sun gradually set. Night fell. The forest was still, echoing with the croaking of frogs. Guan's figure reappeared. He was now perfect in the Taoist Great Luo immortal realm, having consumed a total of 40 trillion years of lifespan for this breakthrough. Thanks to the Emperor clan, even with such a loss of lifespan, Guan still had 100 trillion left. Next, he could begin to endure for 1 trillion lifetimes. Guan did not intend to return to the Taoist field of the beginningless but rather to take a journey through the human world. Having achieved a breakthrough with difficulty, he naturally had to indulge. With the dim night, the forest was silent, the moonlight filtering through the gaps in the leaves, elongating Guan's shadow. He walked while contemplating. Above the Tao Extreme Daluo Immortal, what realm was there? After the Tao court and various major sects suppressed the internal turmoil, the dawn of peace in the world appeared. 1,000 years later, the human world returned to peace. The Emperor Tianhong, renowned and praised by the world, came to the vicinity of the Taoist field of the beginningless. In the forest where he had once knelt for tens of thousands of years, he gazed at the unchanging environment with a look of reflection on his face. After fighting in the mortal world for so many years and returning now, he finally understood what the supporting Tao sword venerable meant. He had gained immense fame, and even though he had left the Tao court, many major sects sought to recruit him. He could easily enjoy all the pleasures of the human world, and before returning, he did struggle with it. But more than temporary pleasure, he wanted to pursue the great Tao. He stood in front of the stream, waiting, looking back on the events of these years and those occasional fragments of memory. After waiting for an hour, Anzin's figure appeared on the opposite bank, startling the Emperor Tianhong, who quickly saluted her. An ex-scion with a cold expression said, "Come with me. From now on, you are a Wushiji disciple, and I am your senior sister." "Thank you, senior sister," the Emperor Tianhong responded, feeling excited. After so many years, he had finally become a disciple of the supporting Tao sword venerable. An ex-scion turned and left, with the Emperor Tianhong hurriedly following. Along the way, an ex-scion began to introduce the situation within the beginningless. She explained which disciples were there and what rules to pay attention to, and Emperor Tianhong listened attentively, not daring to neglect. When they stepped into the Taoist field of the beginningless, Emperor Tianhong clearly felt the nature's spiritual energy was suddenly different, even though the surroundings hadn't changed much. It was only when he emerged from the forest that he saw an incredibly beautiful mountain forest, a rare sight in the world. Every mountain was planted with various spirit flowers and spirit grass, creating a mesmerizing and beautiful spectacle that no painting could capture. An ex-scion ambled along the mountain path, without flying, compelling Emperor Tianhong to follow her pace. "Senior sister, is the teacher in the dojo?" Emperor Tianhong cautiously asked. An ex-scion without looking back said, "He's not here, but at the latest, you'll meet him the day after tomorrow." "Is there something urgent? Will I delay him?" Emperor Tianhong asked nervously. Such a great power as the supporting Tao sword venerable must be occupied with unimaginable important matters. In outer heaven debating the Tao with great powers? Or exploring the void of the great Tao? He has no urgent matters, just playing in the human world. Perhaps in past years, you encountered him, but he transformed into an unremarkable mortal, and you didn't recognize him. And Zin's answer surprised Emperor Tianhong greatly, raising concerns in his heart. He had to recall if he had done anything wrong in front of others. While Emperor Tianhong reflected on himself, Guan wasn't wandering in the human world. He was drinking with the celestial spirit god at the world gate. The two sat at a small table, with spiritual wine and some human world dishes placed on it. The celestial spirit god had long given up mortal desires, but since Guan invited him, he graciously accepted. After drinking a bowl of wine, the celestial spirit god took the initiative to say, Tian Hao should have taken root in the misty immortal court by now. I can sense his cultivation level rising rapidly lately. Guan smiled. He indeed is doing quite well. After reaching the perfect Taoist Great Luo immortal realm, Guan could precisely calculate the karma of the misty immortal court. The court's destiny couldn't obstruct his gaze. He could see everything within and knew Tian Hao had gained the recognition of an immortal mansion, fully integrating into the misty immortal court. The celestial spirit god nodded and then asked, How do you intend to deal with the Tai immortal monarch and the 72 immortals of Jindong? Immortal gods can't be completely eradicated. One day, they will return to the celestial court or be discovered missing by it. Guan took the wooden token from his waist and placed it on the small table, jokingly saying, After wearing it for so many years, I'm really not used to it. As for the Tai immortal monarch, let him continue to sink in the suffering of reincarnation. I will indeed spare them before the celestial court discovers them, but until then, I'll make them suffer a little. Even though it wasn't the first time Jindong's 72 immortals had been turned into wooden plaques, the celestial spirit god still felt amazed. Immortal gods were so fragile in Guan's hands. Sir the Oval Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Even having pledged allegiance to Guan, he still didn't know Guan's cultivation level. The human world has already seen other immortal gods and chaos evil demons appearing. If this goes on, it will certainly lead to catastrophe. As a celestial god, how do you think I should get through this calamity? Guan asked the celestial spirit god. Perhaps it was an illusion, but although Guan sought advice, the celestial spirit god felt he wasn't that fearful of the celestial court. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 662. The difference between immortal gods. The celestial spirit god contemplated for a long time before saying, There are only two paths. 1. You accumulate merit, benefit all living beings, touch the heavens, thus attracting the attention of the celestial court, and be rewarded with a place in the immortal class. 2. You abandon this great thousand world. Though the celestial court is strong, the great Tao is vast. Ultimately, there are places beyond the celestial court's reach. On the celestial court's bounty list, there are many powerful beings who have yet to be brought to justice. His answer left Guan somewhat dissatisfied. In short, isn't this just a choice between submission and escape? The celestial spirit god seemed to sense Guan's displeasure and continued, Some of the celestial court's actions do indeed overlook all living beings, but the celestial court is not evil. In fact, the 3,000 great worlds still exist, and immortal gods rarely present themselves. This alone suffices to prove the severity of the celestial rules. Within any force in the world, there is good and bad, and there is no absolutely fair rule or order. The internal struggles within the celestial court are also significant, and the celestial emperor, who stands lofty, has been in seclusion for years, rarely emerging into the world. Over the endless years, countless purges have occurred in the celestial court. But no matter how the changes unfold, immortal gods will ultimately be ensnared by their interests. When longevity is no longer a luxury, besides power, all that remains for them is status. Actually joining the celestial court is not as unbearable as you imagine, nor will you lose so-called freedom. As long as you fulfill your duties, immortal gods can have plenty of personal time. Though he pledged allegiance to Guan, it was an act of desperation. In his heart he wished for Guan to join the celestial court. With Guan's abilities, rising to a celestial Tao immortal position higher than that of an immortal monarch in the future would be no difficult task. Guan smiled and said, I do not reject the celestial court. I am just cautious about the unknown. After all, even you are unsure where exactly the celestial court is, or how deep its waters run. The celestial spirit god couldn't help but sigh upon hearing this. In the celestial spirit great world, he was a high and mighty celestial god, yet he had never even been to the celestial court and was part of its lower echelons, an unnoticed existence. Even if he violated the celestial rules or neglected his duties, the celestial court wouldn't deal with him in a short time, because the celestial court simply didn't care about him. With this in mind, the celestial spirit god also felt frustrated. He thought he took the wrong path back then. If he hadn't been obsessed with that immortal palace treasure, how would he have ended up in such a situation? Guan asked with a smile. It said your talent is outstanding even among celestial gods. Don't you have any plans? Do you want to remain a celestial god forever? The celestial spirit god shook his head and said, those who become celestial gods are all of extraordinary talent. Even if I give my best in cultivation, ascending would still require an exceedingly long time. I have a junior who is currently participating in the selection for celestial gods, cultivating in a celestial army. The celestial god is called Celestial Calming God. Do you know him? Guan thought of Zhang Buku and thus asked. The celestial spirit god nodded and said, I know him. He counts as my senior. He serves the Huang Feng immortal monarch, and among celestial gods, he holds a relatively high position. The lowest in rank are celestial gods like us guarding a great thousand world, whereas celestial calming god isn't confined to one place. He is akin to a god of destruction, and his range of activity covers the 3,000 great worlds. Mentioning celestial calming god, the celestial spirit god's tone carried envy. Guan gained a clearer understanding of celestial gods. Even among immortal gods of the same rank, the extent of power varies. The celestial spirit god opened up, starting to recount his experiences serving the celestial court. Memories related to the celestial court couldn't be confiscated, so Guan was also curious about his past. The universe was silent, distant stars dotting the sky. Guan and the celestial spirit god, drinking before the world gate, seemed unaffected by time as bowl followed bowl, perhaps a metaphor for the passage of time and the changes in the world. In times of peace, time passes more swiftly. In the blink of an eye, another 10,000 years have passed. The members of Dao Court who had ventured onto the path of the great Dao finally returned, causing a commotion in the entire sect. Xiao Lan and Yuan Songzi stood on high clouds, looking at the vast sea of people below, smiles on their faces. They finally returned. Returning from the path of the great Dao was an equally long journey, with endless hardships, and only at this moment could their tense minds relax. Seeing that Dao Court remained prosperous, the great cultivators of the Dao Court were full of relief in their eyes. CTH Novelfire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Ting Master. Elders, I'm leaving first. My brother Gu is still waiting for me. Xiao Lan said this and then turned to leave, disappearing into the ends of the heavens and earth in the blink of an eye. Ji Xiaoyu's expression became unnatural upon hearing her words, but she said nothing. A female elder shook her head and laughed. This girl is still as infatuated with her lover as ever. Even after traveling the path of the great Dao and broadening her horizons, she remains true to her original heart. The other elders also revealed kind smiles. They all doted on Xiao Lan, feeling she was like a child who never outgrew. Yuan Songzi's gaze landed on a figure below, who stood out with overwhelming aura, attracting attention even while amidst the crowd. Zhao Rushan. To have grown to such an extent, it seems a lot has happened over these years. Yuan Songzi mused. Ji Xiaoyu's failure on the Emperor Road, and Xiao Lan's pause, made him realize that the Taoist emperor was still far from Dao Court. Looking again at Zhao Rushan, he felt this person wasn't so remarkable, at least far inferior to the unbeatable emperor. Where exactly could the seed of a Taoist emperor be found? Yuan Songzi's thoughts drifted, his heart feeling a bit melancholy. Meanwhile, Guan had already returned to Xiao Lan's grotto heaven to wait, noticing Ji Xiaoyu's expression. He pondered how to help her. Failing on the Emperor Road, her cultivation level regressed, and her Dao heart was damaged. It was his first time hearing Ji Xiaoyu's heart sound so lonely. He could feel Ji Xiaoyu's pride, and precisely because of it, he felt this matter was difficult to handle. If only he could, like creating a Dao treasure, carve a path of destiny no less than that of a Taoist emperor. With this thought, Gu Wei's eyes lit up. This direction seems promising. Since he has ample time and doesn't need to engage in daily arduous cultivation, he might as well study different paths of destiny. Guan began to contemplate in this direction. He first needed to understand the essence of a Taoist emperor. Not long after, Xiao Lan's presence burst into the grotto heaven, She appeared out of nowhere before Guan and hugged him tightly. "Wonderful, Brother Gu, you're still here." Xiao Lan held onto Guan tightly, speaking with delight. She was so overjoyed she even shed tears. Don't be fooled by her carefree demeanor usually. In reality, she always worried in her heart. She was away for too long and was truly afraid of changes occurring in Dao Court or Guan reaching his twilight years. "What are you saying? My talent may not be as great as yours, but I'm also diligently cultivating. I'm not that easy to die." Guan humphed, gently patting her back, feeling a little touched himself. In retrospect, he had countless separations with his junior sister throughout this life. He could foresee the future, but his junior sister could not. Worrying for the future was normal. It seems showing off some of his own strength appropriately, revealing a bit of the iceberg to leave her in awe, is necessary. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 663. Blaze a new trail. After a long separation, their reunion was fiery with passion. Guan and Xiao Lan entwined for half a month before they finally parted. Xiao Lan continued her cultivation, while Guan switched avatars. His true self went to various places to harvest matured medicinal herbs. After he was done, he returned to the Taoist field of the beginningless. Walking along the mountain path, Guan began contemplating the matter of creating a path. To create a path similar to that of a Taoist emperor. A Taoist emperor is an existence aided by great Tao destiny. In the same realm, a Taoist emperor's power of the great Tao is stronger, and they can also command the great Tao of the present environment to fight on their behalf. This gives Taoist emperors the ability to fight beyond their realm, making them invincible within the same realm. There are 3,000 great Taos. Different Taos can cultivate different Taoist emperors. On the path of the great Tao, cultivators competing for the destiny of a Taoist emperor can devour the great Tao destiny of their competitors, thus enhancing their own destiny, and transform the destiny of different Taos into their own without changing the essence of their own Tao. This suggests that there may be some rules judging the Taoist emperors. If a Taoist emperor relies on the power of the Tao, wouldn't allowing others to rely on their own power be considered a way out? As this thought emerged, countless ideas burst forth in Guan's mind. He suddenly thought that the celestial court could also be such an existence. The heavenly court immortals leverage celestial Tao destiny, fundamentally similar to Taoist emperors, albeit the immortal gods are stronger. Could it be that the so-called celestial Tao was also created by an extremely powerful existence? Guan's imagination ran wild, and he decided to test such an approach. To transform his own power into a cultivation system for Ji Xiaoyu to use. Providing such a method is not difficult and can be transmitted through the path of cause and effect. But mere borrowing pales in comparison to the Taoist emperors and the heavenly court immortals. Upon acquiring great Tao destiny, a Taoist emperor's cultivation speed increases, and the heavenly court immortals can rely on celestial Tao destiny to attain immortality. Guan felt that to successfully create this, it would take a very long time. He did not feel discouraged by this. Instead, he was full of anticipation. Things that can be achieved easily are not worth expecting. A long time passed. Guan returned to his courtyard, and besides Shen Zhen, an Xian and Emperor Tianhong were also present. The two were discussing something, and upon seeing Guan, they immediately saluted. "Master, Yuan Luo offended Zhao Rushan at the Tao Court's Genius Conference. Yi Qingshan fears for his premature death and wishes to send him to Wuxia for tempering. What do you think?" An Xian was the first to speak. Guan shook his head and said, "The beginningless is not a place for fostering layabouts, and that disciple named Yuan Luo does not wish to train here." Upon hearing that Yi Qingshan wanted to send him to the beginningless, Yuan Luo not only resisted but also flew into a rage. In his view, the sect felt he would be killed by Zhao Rushan, which humiliated him, and he vowed to annihilate Zhao Rushan. The enmity between Yuan Luo and Zhao Rushan was not complex. At the Genius Conference, Yuan Luo shone brilliantly, and Zhao Rushan tried to recruit him, but his words implied threats, which displeased Yuan Luo. The two clashed, and with his fiery temper, he even took the initiative to strike Zhao Rushan. One must know that Zhao Rushan is currently a chief disciple of the Tao Court, and barring accidents, he will become the next master of the Tao court. Even though the Tao court said nothing, offending the chief disciple of the Tao court put tremendous pressure on the Chenkuan sect. Upon hearing Gu An's words, an Xian did not say much more. She vanished on the spot to negotiate with the Chenkuan sect. Master, I accompanied senior sister to the Chenkuan sect yesterday and met that genius named Yuan Luo. I feel he. Emperor Tianhong hesitated to continue. Guan walked to the artifact refining cauldron, observing the Tao treasure inside, and casually asked, he's the reincarnation of a chaos evil demon, right? Emperor Tianhong's eyes widened in astonishment. You know. The things Guan said to Shen Zhan and an Xian were not spread to other disciples, so the true identity of Yuan Luo had not been revealed. Even though he had joined the Taoist field of the beginningless for thousands of years, Emperor Tianhong still did not know that Guan was aware of this matter. After all, even you, as a heavenly court immortal, have been reincarnated. One more chaos evil demon isn't surprising, Guan said with a gentle laugh. Emperor Tianhong fell silent. He gradually awakened part of his past lives' memories, knowing that he had an illustrious background in his previous life. He had confessed this to Guan, who fortunately didn't mind. Emperor Tianhong is the reincarnation of a heavenly court star monarch, whose cultivation level should have been in the Tai Ching golden immortal realm in his previous life. Although I don't understand why this world always attracts so many outer heaven existences, as your master, I do not wish to partake in the karma. If one day you wish to return, your master will not stop you. Gu An's words deeply moved Emperor Tianhong, and he quickly said, I won't go back. Silly disciple, once you fully awaken your past lives' memories, you'll know you'll definitely go back. Guan laughed, knowing well that Emperor Tianhong would not betray his information to the heavenly court. The eyes were purple, resembling a pair of snake eyes, staring down at her. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 664, The Strongest Power These Eyes. Ji Xiaoyu felt a chill run down her spine, and she couldn't help but ask, You didn't die? Back then, it was with these eyes that the unbeatable emperor defeated her. As soon as these eyes opened, she was drawn into a strange illusion realm. In the illusion realm, she was besieged by multiple versions of herself until she was defeated. Even now, she could not comprehend it when she recalled the incident. What kind of divine skill was that, making her turn against herself? The battle within the illusion realm didn't feel like a hallucination, because afterwards, the injuries she sustained there manifested in reality. These mysterious eyes didn't answer Ji Xiaoyu, only stared coldly at her. Ji Xiaoyu sensed something was wrong. Her expression changed drastically. She instinctively tried to get up, but an unbelievably terrifying force suppressed her, preventing her from rising. The other party was probing her karma. No, he wasn't the unbeatable emperor. Ji Xiaoyu could feel that the oppressive force was much stronger than that of the unbeatable emperor. It was an unimaginable power. Even Guan did not bring such a terrifying sense of pressure. Could he be the entity behind the unbeatable emperor? Investigating the cause of the unbeatable emperor's death? Ji Xiaoyu instinctively thought of Guan, but in an instant, she focused her attention back on the figure before her. Were these eyes a bloodline heritage? She had heard from Yuan Songzi that the emperor clan, behind the unbeatable emperor, dared to take the title of emperor because they had nurtured many Taoist emperors. Cultivating so many great Tao emperors was beyond the reach of a mere Taoist technique legacy. The bloodline talent of the emperor clan must be extraordinary. Just then, the eyes closed, but Ji Xiaoyu did not relax, as the suppressive force was still there. A silhouette emerged from the black mist at the zenith, an elderly man in black robes, his white hair tied beneath a crown, exuding an extraordinary aura, with a coldness between his brows that sent chills down one's spine. His purple eyes seemed able to penetrate the soul, causing Ji Xiaoyu's heart to tremble. Ji Xiaoyu saw a shadow of the unbeatable emperor in him. This person clearly had some connection to the unbeatable emperor. The old man in black descended from the sky, landing in front of Ji Xiaoyu. He raised his right hand towards Ji Xiaoyu's forehead. Faced with such a dire situation, Ji Xiaoyu felt despair in her heart but showed no fear, instead staring straight at the old man in black. Clap. A hand suddenly pressed on the old man's shoulder, the sound not loud, yet at this moment, it reverberated throughout the hall. She raised her hand to catch the reincarnation endless map, then let out a slight sigh. He left so quickly, I wanted to ask him about the unbeatable Emperor's divine skill just now. Ji Xiaoyu whispered with a sigh, her gaze landing on the reincarnation endless map, her expression turning complex. Why hadn't she felt his dominance before? Forcing himself to help her like this. Elsewhere. Guan returned to the Taoist field of the beginningless. He left quickly because he knew Ji Xiaoyu would inquire about the immortal Emperor's eye. The eyes of the unbeatable Emperor and the old man in black were indeed the immortal Emperor's eye. Guan was curious about this. The immortal Emperor's eye was not tolerated by the celestial court, yet the Emperor clan dared to cultivate it? No wonder they faced extermination. If the immortal Emperor's eye were to spread, they'd face even more dire consequences. Guan sat inside his chamber, lifting his right hand where the old man in black, now the size of a grain of rice, stood in his palm. At this moment, the old man still retained consciousness. Looking up at the gigantic Guan, his eyes were filled with horror and despair. He roughly guessed what Guan intended to do but was powerless to resist, unable even to self-destruct. Why is this happening? Why does my immortal Emperor's eye fear him so? The old man's mind collapsed with these thoughts, not just because he was facing death, but also because the failure of the immortal Emperor's eye shattered his belief. Previously, he believed the immortal Emperor's eye to be the ultimate power. This was the source of his confidence to come. It took him millennia, avoiding the celestial god, to infiltrate the celestial spirit great world, only to be captured immediately upon arrival, a conclusion he had never envisioned. Guan looked down at the old man, his eyes transforming as he unleashed the calamity absolute eye, brutally searching through the old man's memories. In an instant, the old man's consciousness broke down, his immortal Emperor's eye losing its luster. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. In that battle, the primordial Emperor domain was affected, leading to the tragic deaths of countless innocent beings, including the wife and children of the unbeaten Emperor ancestor. His hatred stemmed from the fact that his wife and children were not casualties of battle but were sacrificed entirely by a wounded celestial god who needed chi blood from his entire city. While he happened to be outside the city and escaped, witnessing his wife and children's souls consumed by the celestial god. During Gu An's soul search, he couldn't clearly see the heavenly court's immortal gods, but he could perceive the situation at the time, albeit the immortal gods appeared vague. Now the celestial court's immortal gods were always plotting against him. Even when the celestial spirit god suggested the strategy to ascend to immortality through meritorious deeds, he continued to guard against the celestial court. The undefeated Emperor clan was a power that could be drawn in. His absolute void eye had absolute suppression over the immortal Emperor's eye, so he did not fear betrayal from the unbeaten Emperor ancestor. Swear your allegiance to me, and this causality shall be settled. Both of us being wielders of the immortal Emperor's eye, we belong to the same camp. At least we will not be accepted by the celestial court, only suppressed by it. Guan's voice sounded, and the unbeaten Emperor ancestor wasn't surprised. When he saw the eyes of the other, he knew the person was not a celestial god of the celestial court. If he refused, he wouldn't just die. The entire Emperor clan might face annihilation too. He had worked hard for many years and didn't want his efforts to go to waste now. In his eyes, the undefeated Emperor clan was merely his weapon for revenge against the celestial court. However, the weapon wasn't strong enough yet. He needed to bide his time. Guan, aware of his hatred and plans for the Emperor clan, sought to subjugate him. I can make your immortal Emperor's eye stronger. Upon hearing Guan's words, the unbeaten Emperor ancestor's pupils shrank, and he immediately knelt, solemnly saying, "Greetings, my lord." Subduing the unbeaten Emperor ancestor was merely a side chapter. After assigning him some tasks, Guan let him go, continuing his peaceful life. Since the return of Yuan Songzi, Zhao Rushan began contemplating reaching the level of Taoist emperor. This plan had long circulated within the Tao court, and in past years, Zhao Rushan was unable to defeat Emperor Tianhong. He felt that only becoming a Taoist emperor could fully surpass Emperor Tianhong. However, Yuan Songzi did not agree to take him on the path of the Great Tao, making Zhao Rushan quite dissatisfied. Yuan Songzi's assertion that he wasn't ready felt humiliating to him. Why could a mundane woman like Xiaolon go, but he couldn't? Emperor Tianhong took the jade pendant and asked, "To what extent should I teach him, and do I need to bring him back?" Guan replied, "It's up to you, at least ensure he has the power to defend himself. There's no need to bring him back, nor should you take him as a disciple or reveal the name of Wuxia." This instruction made Emperor Tianhong even more interested in that person. The internal competition of the Chenkuan sect will last several months, as the sect's establishment is vast, with many talented disciples participating. The final 30 winners will go to the Tao court together to compete in the Magic Battle Conference, which symbolizes the highest talent in the world. The Millennial Heavenly Pride Magic Battle Conference is regarded as the most premier event between heaven and earth, and the rivalry of talents will bring unimaginable benefits to the sects backing them. It is truly a case of one person achieving Tao, elevating everything related to them. After the Chenkuan sect's competition ended, Emperor Tianhong set off. Guan, however, went to the hidden spirit palace under the sea. Chen Chuan's parents, Su Ling and Chen Luo, had long departed, and they joined Chen Chuan to develop the sword sect together. Without further curses, Guan naturally paid less attention to them. Even though Chen Chuan was Xiao Chuan's reincarnation, Guan had already given enough care to his parents, with no need to keep watching all the time. The hidden spirit palace was desolate, with arrays of medicine gardens planted in front of the palace. The distribution was simple, and the colors pieced together gave off a bizarre sense of beauty. The deep-sea dragon carp opened its eyes and saw Guan harvesting medicinal herbs. It immediately stood up. Saw the Oval Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Now it had the cultivation of a divine immortal of wondrous dharma. Its temperament had become more mature than before, yet in its simple white robe with long hair reaching the ground, it still exuded a feminine grace. Although it still had the appearance of a feminine grace outwardly, it already understood the difference between genders. After cultivating in the hidden spirit palace for more than 200,000 years, it also harbored greater ambitions in its heart. "Master, when will you let me adopt a few disciples to relieve my boredom?" The deep-sea dragon carp came beside Guan, asking cautiously. Since Chen Luo and his spouse left, it felt lonely, often having no one to talk to. Guan ignored its sigh, knowing well what it was thinking, and said, "Once you reach the Zizai immortal realm, I will permit you to travel for 1,000 years to personally select and bring back 9 disciples." Zizai immortal? The deep-sea dragon carp's expression changed slightly, indicating it might take another 1,000,000 years. I will open up a tunnel, but it's uncertain where this tunnel will lead. Most likely, it will lead inside the divine court, and we'll have to improvise afterward. The innate golden immortal said while casting spells, drawing circles with his hands, and a black hole appeared in front of him, rapidly expanding, surrounded by intertwining time-space lightning, its darkness making one shiver, appearing so terrifying. Once the black hole stabilized, he entered it first, followed closely by others. Some hesitated, but seeing those ahead entering, they gritted their teeth and followed. Zhu Shi was about to ask Guan, only to see Guan follow too. This made her feel absurd. Was this person's plan to follow these people? Then what was the meaning of everything he said before? Without him, she would have followed too. Zhu Shi cursed a few words in her heart and also chose to follow. She came behind Guan, staring at his back with an unfriendly look. If looks could kill, Guan would probably have turned to dust by now. The two stepped into the black hole one after the other. As soon as they entered the black hole, Zhu Zai's vision was swallowed by darkness, and even her divine sense couldn't see. But fortunately, she could feel the surge of spiritual energy, and she could also hear Gu An's footsteps ahead. Is this your plan? Without you, I would have followed him. Zhu, she said through gritted teeth, her tone very displeased. Gu An's voice followed. The real trouble starts after we get out. Without me, you will undoubtedly die. These words left Zhu Shi uncertain and apprehensive. She could only hold her confusion in check and remain vigilant. She didn't completely trust the leading innate golden immortal either, just had no choice but to follow under such desperation. They moved quickly, and Zhu Shi clearly felt the spiritual energy along the way growing richer. This indicated they were getting closer to the exit. Zhu Shi grew more nervous, beginning to imagine what they might encounter after escaping. A while later, light finally appeared ahead, and Zhu Shi heard the voices of the people around her, most of whom felt pleasantly surprised, not expecting to truly escape that suppressed place. As the light in front grew brighter, Zhu Shi gradually saw Gu An's back. For some reason, she felt a sense of déjà vu, as if she had seen this person's back somewhere before. Soon, she followed Guan into a bright light, her divine sense instantly recovered. She sensed the people ahead stopping all at once, and she also halted her steps. She opened her eyes and looked ahead, her face instantly freezing. Not just her, the other escaping individuals also looked forward in disbelief. Ahead was a vast and boundless forest, like another world, only everyone's gaze was focused above the forest. Above the sea of clouds, countless figures in purple armor stood on the clouds, each holding a divine weapon. Sweeping the eye over them, one couldn't count how many there were. The vast army exuded a suppressive momentum. The leading innate golden immortal's face turned ashen, as if he hadn't expected so many enemies waiting outside. Your Highness, you are the crown prince of the divine court. Why commit treason? A voice rang out across the heavens, causing a commotion among the escapees, who hadn't expected this innate golden immortal to be the crown prince of the divine court. Zhu Shi frowned deeply, feeling only dread. Clearly, she had been swept up in a larger karma, where if she hadn't been incited earlier and stayed in the place of guardianship, she wouldn't be facing such trouble now. The innate golden immortal took a deep breath, stepped forward and shouted loudly, General Zhu, you are the eternal divine general of the divine court, protecting the great world many times, and all living beings revere you. But now the divine court has become a lapdog of the immortal gods. In the last 1,000,000 years, how many innocent lives have been lost to the divine court's offerings to the immortal gods? Can you really remain indifferent? That immortal god is insatiable, enlarging ambition step by step, and one day will set eyes on the foundation of our divine court. We cannot gamble. These words made the escapees even more uneasy. How could it also involve the immortal gods? Even in the Taiwei Great World, immortal gods were nothing but elusive legends. They, like Zhu Shi, felt things had become extremely perilous, involving the crown prince of the divine court and the immortal gods, meaning what awaited them was likely an irreversible disaster. Zhu Shi turned to look at Guan, noticing not a trace of tension on his face, which only piqued her curiosity even more about how this person planned to lead her out. Could it be related to that immortal god? Saw the novel, F.I.R. NT website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. From what the divine court crown prince said, that immortal god seemed very malevolent, but to Zhu Shi, an outsider, the good and evil of this realm were temporarily irrelevant. She just wanted to escape. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 669. The Struggle of the Celestial Emperor. As the words of the divine court crown prince fell, a magnificent figure emerged above the vast army in purple armor on the clouds, appearing ethereal in the sunlight, like a mirage. General Zhu. He stood high above, overlooking the world, wearing heavy and majestic red armor. His face was solemn, and his brows resembled two flames. His long hair coiled beneath the divine crown, and 7 giant swords radiating different divine lights hovered behind him in a fan shape, as if 7 divine powers stood behind him. Before General Zhu, Zhu Shi and the escapees felt a deep sense of awe. Some couldn't withstand the pressure and fell to their knees directly. General Zhu's right hand was half raised, playing with two beads in his palm, like two stars squeezing together, shaking the soul. Crown Prince, how dare you slander the immortal gods and question the divine court? If His Majesty knew this, imagine his heartbreak. General Zhu's voice rang out, and as his words ended, a vertical eye suddenly opened on his forehead, shooting a terrifying red beam at incredible speed down from the sky. Everything happened too quickly, so fast that the divine court crown prince had no time to react. Boom! The red light struck the divine court crown prince, and the dreadful impact blew the escapees away. Some attempted to flee, but the tunnel created by the divine court crown prince had vanished. Just as the escapees tried to leap up, an unimaginable pressure pinned them down, forcing them to their knees. Howling winds, scattered debris, and forests were swept away, resembling the arrival of the apocalypse. Zhu Shi was pushed to her knees, struggling to lift her head, her pupils trembling in fear. Such terrifying suppression. She couldn't imagine how terrifying it would be if the opponent went all out. The red light dissipated in front, leaving only a white skeleton of the divine court crown prince, trembling precariously, eventually collapsing on the ground. This scene filled the thousands of other escapees with despair. If even the divine court crown prince had to die, how could they survive? High above, General Zhu's expression was indifferent, as if he had not killed the divine court crown prince, but merely an insect. The countless divine soldiers in purple armor, also expressionless, heightened the air of despair in the land. General Zhu opened his right hand, letting the two beads fall, releasing a dazzling light as they descended, dimming the world. The intense light fell, and Zhu Shi couldn't help but turn to Guan beside her, gritting her teeth and asking, "Didn't you say you have a way?" Guan glanced at her, a corner of his mouth curving up. His smile appeared arrogant in Zhu Zai's eyes, seeming crazily out of place at this moment. Though not very knowledgeable about the celestial court, he knew what the celestial emperor symbolized. It was the highest position and power, representing the strongest of the heavenly Tao. Speaking of which, I discovered an immortal god in the Taiwei Great World, he with the divine court. Guan recounted his experiences in the Taiwei Great World, 100 years since rescuing Zhu Shi, now accompanied by his avatar. Besides spying on the human world through the seven-star mirror, he occasionally wandered the human world in the Taiwei Great World. The divine court continually recruited divine disciples everywhere, with mortal recruits being severed from family ties forever. Some families received compensation, while others were forcibly enlisted. Guan saw these divine disciples being sent into a gigantic pill furnace, which was concocting some elixir, yet unfinished to this day. This was probably what the immortal gods sought, with the divine court offering tributes for 1,000,000 years. In those 1,000,000 years, countless mortal spirits had been sacrificed to the pill furnace, yet no elixir had emerged, piquing his curiosity about the pill's origins. He also shared this with the celestial spirit god, hoping for an explanation. The celestial spirit god frowned, saying, "Using living spirits for alchemy isn't unheard of, but I don't know what specific elixir that immortal god is concocting. Yet for it to remain incomplete for so long, it's probably related to the struggle for the celestial emperor. The Taiwei Great World is among the top in the 3,000 great worlds. I suspect other great thousand worlds are also doing the same." He didn't condemn the immortal god's actions, instead feeling more worried. He understood the style of the immortal gods. Immortal gods would indulge evil, yet not leave traces. This meant the Taiwei Great World was doomed to destruction. If such situations arise in many great thousand worlds, eventually, the 3,000 great worlds might be destroyed, and the celestial court will recreate the 3,000 great worlds. The celestial spirit god's face was extraordinarily grave, his words altering the look in Guan's eyes. "If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 670. Substitute the 3,000 great worlds will be destroyed? Guan was also surprised to hear this. In his view, although the immortal gods were tyrannical and saw all living beings as nothing, they would still adhere to the so-called celestial rules, Even if it meant destroying the world, they needed just cause. The Celestial Court indeed had the power to annihilate the 3,000 great worlds in an instant, but wouldn't doing so violate the celestial rules? Sir the Oval Fire. Et website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Guan suddenly felt that the so-called celestial rules were quite flexible. When it involved the highest authority, the rules were just child's play. What do you think we should do? The celestial spirit god looked at Guan and asked seriously. The celestial gods guarding the Great Thousand World had begun to take action, seeking a way out. To them, the Great Thousand World represented divine authority. If the Great Thousand World were lost, their positions would be destabilized, and their cultivation would suffer backlash. The celestial gods see all living beings as ants, just as the supreme beings of the celestial court see the celestial gods as ants. Guan stopped walking, glanced at a few spirit beasts squatting in front of a street stall, and replied, "Let things take their natural course. Before anything happens, the only thing you can do is cultivate diligently." The celestial spirit god had no choice but to give up after hearing this. Thinking about Guan's unfathomable cultivation level, he felt that when the catastrophe of the fight for the Celestial Emperor broke out in the celestial spirit great world, his predicament might not be as difficult as it seemed now. He then continued to recount his experiences from a recent journey, and Guan listened attentively. Their conversation was only audible to them, and even while walking down a busy street, they didn't attract any attention. After spending half a day exploring the Chenkuan sect, the celestial spirit god returned through the world gate. Guan continued to wander around the city. With the joining of 20 geniuses from the undefeated emperor clan, the Chenkuan sect was thriving, reaching an unprecedented period of prosperity. The top genius Yuan Luo continuously enhanced its reputation outside, attracting more people to come and seek guidance. At dusk, Guan carried a wine gourd in his hand. He stopped, drinking while watching the commotion. The disciples on the street were observing a conflict between two young male disciples. One of them, once a genius, had been crippled during training outside and was now enduring humiliation from the other disciple. The other disciple was a descendant of an elder within the sect, which meant no one dared to step forward to intervene. Guan had no intention of getting involved. Watching the scene unfold, he reflected deeply. For the disciples of the Chenkuan sect, the sect represented the whole martial world. For the people of the world, the heavens were vast and boundless, unaware that the Great Thousand World was as insignificant as dust to certain beings. Guan pondered the path he wanted to take and what rules he should follow. He believed he could find his true self amidst the turmoil, for he had risen from the depths. Time ebbed away, and 400 years passed. In a valley, Zhu Shi, dressed in black, stood on the surface of the lake, holding a long sword with its blade horizontal in front of her as she closed her eyes. Guan lay on the grass by the lake, holding the seven-star mirror, peering into the scenes of the human world within the Taiwei Great World. The divine court crown prince was but a microcosm. There were many people in the world who wanted to resist the divine court and that immortal god. The divine court crown prince was also persuaded, and these people had already formed a faction. Although lacking the power of the divine court, they could only remain hidden. Whenever someone was taken to become a divine disciple, these individuals would appear, seeking to win over the offspring or siblings of the divine disciples using hatred. But Guan saw the leader of this faction secretly kneeling before the ruler of the divine court. It was all a ploy. The divine court's control over the Taiwei Great World was too deep, and for this Great Thousand World to overthrow their rule was extremely difficult. However, as Guan taught Zhu Shi to cultivate, he saw a variable. Zhu Shi would stand in opposition to the divine court. Once she could deal with that immortal god, she could replace the divine court. Boom! A vast sword intent blew from the lake surface, causing a gust of wind that stirred the flowers and grass, creating a green wave around Guan. Guan slowly sat up and tucked the seven-star mirror into his arms, turning his gaze to Zhu Shi on the lake. Zhu Shi still held her sword. Her sword intent materialized into thousands of silver stars floating above the lake, creating a beautiful and fantastical scene. Her dress billowed, and her long hair flowed, exuding an otherworldly aura. Finally entered the Tao, did you? This speed truly deserves the saint heavenly aptitude. Guan thought to himself silently. Zhu Zai's previous life was a Shengtian, unrivaled and symbolic of the strongest talent in one Great Thousand World. The sword intent Zhu Shi comprehended was precisely the Sacred Heart Sword Tao. The Sacred Heart Sword Tao was created by his reincarnation body, Yang Xian, depending on the river of Sword Dao, needing no lifespan to transform and improve. The Sacred Heart Sword Dao continued to grow stronger. Chapter 671. The Fickle Heart of the World. Sarch * the novel, F. Iyer. NT website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. After parting with Zhu Shi, Gu An's life once again fell into tranquility. He delved into creating a Dao, but this path was exceedingly arduous, always causing this Dao extreme Daluo immortal to rack his brains. Time flew by swiftly. Another 100,000 years passed by. In this year, the Taiqian dynasty launched a surprise attack on the Dao court, igniting the flames of war in the human world. In the Tai Tsong dynasty, within the imperial garden of the palace. While pouring wine for Guan, Li Xiandao lamented, "That Taiqian is truly formidable, daring to launch an attack on the Dao court. Whether successful or not, the courage of Taiqian son of heaven is enough to command my admiration." Taiqian is the strongest dynasty in the world. Although the Tai Tsong dynasty has not been annexed by it, they can still feel its tiger-like might. If it weren't for the feud between Taiqian and the Dao court, Li Xiandao believed Taiqian would eventually march towards the Tai Tsong continent. Guan toyed with the jade statue gifted by Li Xiandao, smiling as he said, "What, does your majesty also wish to emulate Taiqian?" He had once visited Taiqian for leisure, and from top to bottom, Taiqian was infused with a belligerent spirit. The reason for waging war against the Dao court was not due to any grudges but was a means to achieve a dominion through borrowed animosity. Behind Taiqian stood numerous powerful sects, which was the source of their confidence. In the coming years, both sides would engage in fierce battles for thousands of years, turning the world dim and chaotic until Zhao Rushan led the Dao court to suppress Taiqian, ascending to the seat of the master of the Dao court. Thus, the primordial era came to an end. Following this began what would be known as the Ancient Era, a period far more prolonged than the primordial era. The final battle of the Ancient Era would plunge the human world into desolation, ushering in the Ancient Period. Gu An's gaze could see far into the distant epochs, even glimpsing the Tianyuan period from which Ji came. However, the future Tianyuan period was already vastly different from the Tianyuan period of Jis origin. Yet Ji was bound to be born. If he didn't exist, the memories he imparted to Guan would be illusory. To say I don't wish to emulate is false. As an emperor, who doesn't want to unite the world? But the Dao court is too strong, and without certainty of victory, I won't lead the people of Tai Tsong to their deaths. Li Xiandao shook his head and said. Currently, he had reached the cultivation level of a carefree primordial immortal. Although he couldn't compare to the disciples of Wuxia in terms of training speed, he was still considered fast in the world. The two talked about worldly matters, occasionally mentioning Li Ya, Yang Jian, Long Teng, and others. Nowadays, the person Li Xiandao valued most wasn't Yang Jian or the prince, but Long Teng. As the son of Long Qing, and now the patriarch of the Long family, Long Teng had grown up, his cultivation reaching the realm of a divine immortal of wondrous dharma. He symbolized the highest talent of the Tai Tsong dynasty, and was a world-renowned peerless prodigy. Li Xiandao curiously asked, "By the way, I've always wanted to ask, Long Ting's cultivation speed is getting faster and faster. Even Yang Jian is amazed. Is it you secretly nurturing him behind the scenes?" A divine immortal of wondrous dharma, being the 6th level of the immortal Dao, can roam the outer heaven. Reaching the realm of a divine immortal of wondrous dharma before 1,000,000 years old is a once-in-billion talent. Guan raised his wine cup smiling. "See through it but don't reveal it." He did indeed quite like Long Ting. Often, he would transform into someone else to be near Long Teng. For Long Teng to have reached today was largely thanks to his Dao intent. When Long Teng cultivated, his Dao intent would envelop him, aiding in his enlightenment. Regarding this, Long Teng was still unaware. In fact, though Gu An's Dao intent could assist others, it was more about giving them a gentle push. If Long Teng had extremely mediocre comprehension, even if he used Dao intent daily to assist, he wouldn't have nurtured him to his current achievements. Li Xiandao, upon hearing this, grew even happier and started inviting for more wine. The two drank for a full 2 hours before Guan finally took his leave. Watching Gu An's departing figure, Li Xiandao couldn't help but ask, "Guan, How much longer can such days last? 100,000 years to him was extremely long, especially since he was an emperor, facing far more partings than ordinary people. He had even seen off many descendants, with the court's ministers changing batch after batch. Only when facing Guan would his heart calm down, feeling that some things could not be erased by time. The most heartless place is the house of royalty, and Li Xiandao had thoroughly become a lonely soul. Guan raised the jade statue in his hand, saying, "Until you grow weary of it." Watching him suddenly disappear, Li Xiandao couldn't help but shake his head and smile, softly murmuring to himself, "How could I ever grow weary?" His expression gradually became complex. He didn't stand up, continuing to sit at the wine table, lost in thought. After leaving the Taizong dynasty, Guan appeared above the sea of clouds, strolling forward. The human heart is ever-changing ultimately. Guan sighed. As for Li Zuando's life, he did not wish to interfere too much. Li Xiandao had been emperor for too long. When the expansion of the Taizong dynasty halted, internal conflicts would break out. He had once executed rebellious royal family members, which increasingly distanced him from the royal family. Meanwhile, Li Ya and Li Lingtian had long roamed the world, never returning. When Guan didn't find him, he would always stay in the bedchamber or the imperial study, either cultivating or reading. Not only Li Xiandao, but other old friends also faced life's predicaments, which were more mental than situational. The path of immortal cultivation is long. When one cannot break through year after year, the fighting spirit weakens, and the thoughts become chaotic. Ambitions and emotions intertwined were as complex and uncontrollable as hearts in the mortal world. Even for them, Guan occasionally felt restless, particularly when his path of creating a Tao was not going smoothly. For this reason, Guan liked to travel across the world, visiting major sects and imperial dynasties. The diverse beings always helped to quickly calm his Tao heart. The reason for finding Li Xiandao to drink today was because his path of creating a Tao finally showed progress, and he was in high spirits, seeking a friend to drink with. Li Ya was busy with carefree vendettas, making it difficult for Guan to find him, so he could only find his father. When Guan met Li Xiandao, he was still very weak. Thus, when he saw Li Xiandao, he could remember the lost feeling of weakness, a sentiment that couldn't be provided by friends made after becoming strong. Soon, Guan disappeared above the sea of clouds. He arrived at Xiao Lan's grotto heaven, switching with his avatar. Xiao Lan was about to emerge from seclusion. Since returning from the path of the Great Tao, her cultivation growth had slowed. Even after being in seclusion for 100,000 years, there was no hope of a breakthrough, which made her heart quite agitated. "Brother Gu." The voice arrived before the person. Guan, who was admiring the flowers and grass, was about to turn when Xiao Lan pounced on him. Xiao Lan, without a word, attempted to kiss him and strip his clothes. Although only the two of them were in the grotto heaven, such roughness was unprecedented for Guan. Several days later, Xiao Lan stood up from the grass, tidied her clothes, looked into the distance and sighed. "Brother Gu, I suddenly feel I'm not a true genius, as I'm starting to encounter bottlenecks too." Guan stood up with her, gazing at her profile and asked, "How about we spar a bit?" Xiao Lan turned to look at him, and slightly shook her head. "Brother Gu, I don't need to regain confidence by defeating you. Even if I beat you many times, my Tao practice would not grow because of it," Xiao Lan said, a nostalgic look crossing her face. If battling powerful enemies on the path of the Great Tao, when the fight ended, the Tao's spiritual qi would surge in her, allowing her to rapidly increase her cultivation level in a short time. That feeling was truly wonderful, and she still yearned for it. "Who said I want to lose to you?" Gu An's voice interrupted Xiao Lan's thoughts, causing her to meet his gaze. Xiao Lan was stunned. It was the first time she had seen Gu An's expression so serious. She pouted slightly. "What, do you want me to go easy on you?" Guan stared at her, whispering, "Even if you give it your all, you can't possibly beat me. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know, report, so we can fix it as soon as possible." In the blink of an eye, the sword shadows covered thousands of miles around. An endless sea of sword shadows rose along with Xiao Lan's sword, resembling a cluster of stars heading toward the cosmos. The sword chi formed tails like the rise of auroras, splendid to the extreme. Xiao Lan swung her sword at Guwen, and the sword shadows from all directions followed suit. Every sword shadow unleashed sword chi that shook heaven and earth, unstoppable. The ground trembled, the celestial vault ripped apart. In this overwhelming sword chi, everything appeared fragile. Guwen did not use any divine skills. He flew straight toward Xiao Lan. Speed increased dramatically. Like a bolt of lightning, tearing through the sea of sword chi between heaven and earth, making it seem as though the celestial vault was split in two. Clang! Xiao Lan's white spirit sword blocked Guwen's sword scabbard, and at that moment, she felt her chi blood surging, extremely uncomfortable. She looked at Guwen and found his expression so indifferent. His eyes devoid of any emotion. Such an expression deeply provoked Xiao Lan. She leapt, disappearing in front of Guwen, and reappeared behind him. Xiao Lan summoned 72 large flags, quickly surrounding Guwen. Almost instantly, a formation was set, and thousands of thunders erupted, intertwining around Guwen. Guwen slowly turned around, and as soon as the lightning was about to touch him, it vanished directly, creating an unapproachable area around him. Xiao Lan's expression changed slightly. She stored the white spirit sword into her storage pouch and cast spells with both hands. The lightning changed color, transforming into purple thunder like dragons or snakes, crazily attacking Guwen. The formation's light also surged, illuminating the entire world. Is this all you can do? Guwen's voice echoed, causing the fighting spirit in Xiao Lan's eyes to surge. Boom! 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 The world roared, the land continuously shattered, rocks soaring into the sky, and the dim celestial vault began to warp, seemingly unable to bear such a massive battle. An hour later, amidst the ruins, Xiao Lan half knelt on a large rock, one hand gripping the white spirit sword to support her body. Her hair was disheveled, her robes torn and dirty, looking extremely bedraggled. She struggled to lift her eyes and saw Guwen descending from the sky, hovering in front of her. In comparison, Guwen seemed untouched by the battle. There wasn't a speck of dust on him, nor any sweat or bloodstains on his face. How is my strength? Guwen asked. Xiao Lan pouted. Very strong, I can't beat you. After the shock, she felt somewhat aggrieved. A few days ago, everything was so sweet, yet today he was so stern. Guwen smiled and said, as long as you can defeat me, you can become a Taoist emperor. I can teach you cultivation. Upon hearing this, Xiao Lan looked at him, struggled to stand up, and asked, have you been to the path of the great Tao? I've been there. Then why did you pretend to be so curious when I talked to you about the path of the great Tao before? Xiao Lan said with a grievance, feeling as if she'd been toyed with. Guwen said, I went there in a past life. Everyone has their past life, you do too. If you wish, I can help you restore your past life memories now. Xiao Lan furrowed her brows and asked, what realm are you exactly? Why are you hiding your cultivation level? Are you? She wanted to ask if Guwen was sincere with her, but felt it was a question she couldn't voice. Guwen smiled. I can't tell you my realm for now. When you exceed me, you'll know. As for hiding my cultivation level, it's because I don't want to cause trouble. I like peace and quiet. You should understand my nature. As for whether I'm sincere with you, you needn't doubt it. When I went to Xiao Manor back then, it was for you. Xiao Lan furrowed her brows even more. She was no longer the innocent girl she once was. She only appeared naive in front of Guwen. Is it because of my past life? Xiao Lan asked. Guwen nodded. Xiao Lan fell silent. Hearing her inner voice, Guwen said comfortingly, regardless of past or present life, you are you, only with different memories. If I cared only about your past self, I would have restored your memories long ago. Xiao Lan took a deep breath and asked, can you help me become a Taoist emperor? Guwen landed in front of her and answered, I can, but I can also guide you on another path, one not inferior to becoming a Taoist emperor. What path? Primordial Tao Emperor. Xiao Lan's expression changed. She hadn't heard of this title, but just from the name, it seemed extraordinary. She couldn't help but ask, is the Primordial Tao Emperor also a level of destiny? Guwen smiled. That's right, the path to becoming a Primordial Tao Emperor is different from the Emperor Road. It is not through killing but through comprehension. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 673. The Legend of the Emperor of Eternal Life. If I become the primordial Tao Emperor, can I defeat the Taoist Emperor? Xiao Lan asked the question she was most concerned about. In the years of roaming on the path of the great Tao, she had witnessed too many prodigies, all of whom were merely competitors of the Taoist Emperor. She couldn't imagine how truly powerful the Taoist Emperor was. Guan replied, whether it's the Taoist Emperor or the primordial Tao Emperor, it's just a boost of destiny. None is absolutely stronger, but becoming the primordial Tao Emperor, your future will be limitless. This wasn't just idle talk from him. The primordial Tao Emperor was a path he had forged, and he could use his power to grow infinitely stronger. Sooner or later, the primordial Tao Emperor would surpass the Taoist Emperor. Becoming the primordial Tao Emperor would not only evoke Gu An's power of the great Tao, but also allow enlightenment in Gu An's Tao. The name primordial was derived from Gu An being the primordial Tao creation body. The title of Tao Emperor was simply meant to match the prestige of an emperor. He was inspired by Ji Xiaoyu's title of Reincarnation Tao Emperor. One day, he would make the primordial Tao Emperor a more formidable existence than the Taoist Emperor. Not only his disciples could become the primordial Tao Emperor. Of course, that was a far-off future, as his creation of the primordial Tao Emperor was still ongoing. Currently, it was just in the first stage, which could attract people to the Tao. Xiao Lan pondered for a moment and said, anyway, you won't harm me. I'm willing to become the primordial Tao Emperor. Teach me. Guan smiled, waved his right hand, and Xiao Lan's injuries instantly healed. Her mana was restored to a full state, and the entire dim world suddenly transformed back into the appearance of a grotto heaven. This scene made Xiao Lan's eyelid twitch, and she couldn't help but ask, was it an illusion realm just now? No, it was the real world, created by me. Gu An's answer made Xiao Lan secretly alarmed. What level of realm was required to achieve such a degree? Sit down. Guan lifted his robe and sat down, gesturing for Xiao Lan to sit as well. Once Xiao Lan sat down, Guan began to teach directly. Sir, the novel Ire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. The Taoist Emperor requires fighting and devouring great Tao destinies on the Emperor Road of the Great Tao. The final victor can become the Taoist Emperor. For the primordial Tao Emperor to rival the Taoist Emperor, it must also have an accumulation process. Guan did not intend to let the Tao seekers slaughter each other like raising poisonous creatures. He thought of his lifespan holograms, lifespan reincarnation, and the innate reincarnation skill. He planned to have the cultivators pursuing the primordial Tao Emperor gain enlightenment in reincarnation. Not a personal reincarnation, but a projection of will into reincarnation. It would exist in reality but would ultimately be annihilated. It wouldn't disturb the great Tao but could absorb its true essence. With this direction, he could better perfect it going forward. Xiao Lan soon became engrossed in Gu An's teachings. The grotto heaven remained calm, with a serene beauty undisturbed by time. In the misty immortal court, within a vast golden hall, hundreds of youthful cultivators gathered, and Tian Hao was among them. Many surrounded him, chatting, resembling stars arching around the moon. I finally got the qualification to compete for the Taoist Emperor. In a million years, it'll be our turn. Time is pressing. Tian Hao is truly remarkable. He hasn't even surpassed attaining the free immortal of Taoist Zong, yet he has the qualification to compete for the Taoist Emperor. I heard that the ancestor values him highly. Don't be overly joyful. The road to the Taoist Emperor is arduous. We might end up killing each other. The disciples of the misty immortal court in the hall discussed matters of the Taoist Emperor. Tian Hao remained silent, recalling the words of the elder who announced the Taoist Emperor matter. He always felt that the elder was watching him with ill intent. Although he had integrated into the misty immortal court, he wasn't born there, so he always had a barrier in his heart, preventing him from fully trusting anyone. Speaking of the Taoist Emperor, our misty immortal court has produced many Taoist emperors throughout history. Do you know which Taoist emperor had the highest talent? The words of a young man in blue clothes caught the attention of many, prompting Tion Hao to turn his head. The blue-clothed man reveled in the attention. He cleared his throat and said, "Naturally, it's the Emperor of Eternal Life from Jinlong Immortal Mansion." Born with the Immortal Emperor's eye, he shocked the entire immortal court. Perhaps unmatched talent brings misfortune. Heaven is fair, so evil exists to covet his immortal emperor's eye. Breaking into the misty immortal court, it cost his parents' lives. To protect him, the misty immortal court sent him to Ling Mountain. The Emperor of Eternal Life inherited the true teachings of Ling Mountain and was the heavenly Buddha ancestor's direct disciple. He was unbeatable once he embarked on the path of the Great Tao, becoming the Taoist emperor in an incredibly short time. The Emperor of Eternal Life. The Immortal Emperor's Eye. Tion Hao had heard of this name, said to be a supreme genius from long ago. He had heard several seniors use the Emperor of Eternal Life to pressure talented disciples. However, when asking about more deeds of the Emperor of Eternal Life, they were warned not to inquire too much. The Emperor of Eternal Life seemed to be a taboo within the misty immortal court. Why did such a powerful Emperor of Eternal Life die? Someone asked, puzzled. The blue-clothed man mysteriously said, he didn't die from being killed. Even legendary immortal gods couldn't do anything to him. He entered the river of cause and effect for his beloved. Whether he truly perished remains unknown. In fact, many ancestors within the court anticipate his return. It's said that Ling Mountain occasionally sends disciples to the river of cause and effect for training, likely orchestrated by the heavenly Buddha ancestor. The Emperor of Eternal Life was the heavenly Buddha ancestor's most cherished disciple. The heavenly Buddha ancestor, being a supreme presence beyond the great thousand world, still longs for the Emperor of Eternal Life. Imagine his extraordinary talent? At these words, the surrounding disciples nodded in agreement, beginning to fantasize about the Emperor of Eternal Life. Even Tion Hao couldn't help but wonder about the elegance of the Emperor of Eternal Life. "Wait, how do you know so much?" a female disciple suddenly asked, prompting everyone to look at the blue-clothed man with odd expressions. Those who knew the blue-clothed man felt even more puzzled. The blue-clothed man maintained a smile, though it became increasingly eerie. "Because I've met him and assisted him," the blue-clothed man said proudly, making those around him have even stranger expressions. Tion Hao sensed something and frowned, silently retreating. Suddenly, the blue-clothed man exploded into a black mist, quickly spreading out, causing surrounding disciples to retreat while holding their magic artifacts defensively. "Little ones, I am the profound demon emperor under the Emperor of Eternal Life. I am also a Taoist emperor. Today, only one among you can survive, and the survivor will have the qualification to compete for the Taoist emperor." The voice of the blue-clothed man resounded, but his tone turned chilling. Rumble, the entire palace began to tremble, and Tion Hao's expression changed dramatically as he felt an overwhelming suppression from outside the hall. They had no way to escape. What was going on? Was it an enemy invasion or an arrangement by the misty immortal court? Tion Hao took out his 3 Tao treasures and watched the black mist vigilantly, faintly catching the silhouette of someone walking within it. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 674. Projecting the Path of Creation, Profound Demon Emperor. In the Taoist field of the beginningless, Guan, lying under a tree reading, murmured this name. Having inherited the memories of the Emperor of Eternal Life, he naturally remembered the Profound Demon Emperor. The Profound Demon Emperor was the most capable underling of the Emperor of Eternal Life, helping him to manage the Stealing Heaven Immortal sect and search for Fairy Yaoxian. However, ever since the Emperor of Eternal Life ignored the Profound Demon Emperor's obstruction, insisted on leaving the Stealing Heaven Immortal sect to find Fairy Yaoxian, and even injured the Profound Demon Emperor, the two bid farewell forever. Unexpectedly, after so many years, the Profound Demon Emperor was still alive. He calculated that the Profound Demon Emperor was invited by the Misty Immortal Court to create crises for this group of talents, forcing them to fight each other, only for the Misty Immortal Court to step in and chase him away. The Misty Immortal Court is not an evil sect. Letting disciples kill each other is unacceptable, as these disciples come from different immortal mansions, and their kin are within the court. If they engage in mutual slaughter, a storm will surely arise, potentially bringing about power shifts. Guan couldn't help but sigh. Indeed, darkness exists everywhere. With Tian Hao's current ability, even with the reliance on a Dao treasure, it would be difficult to survive till the end. The talents within that palace are not weak. The disciples of the misty immortal court did not listen to the words of the profound demon emperor, but instead began to jointly attack him. The profound demon emperor's cultivation level had reached the heaven-opening Daluo immortal realm, which this group of talents could not contend with. Soon, all the talented disciples were suppressed. The profound demon emperor unleashed his divine skills, isolating time and space, so even if 1,000 or 10,000 years passed here, only a few breaths' time would pass outside, plunging the disciples of the misty immortal court into despair. Eventually, someone couldn't contain themselves and began attacking their fellow disciples. Once someone took the lead, the slaughter naturally erupted. Tian Hao did not actively participate in the slaughter, carefully avoiding other disciples, yet someone still sought him out. The misty immortal court seemed to receive some kind of stimulus, intensifying the cultivation of its disciples, wishing to nurture combat power more swiftly. The reason behind this, Guan couldn't compute. If there's something he couldn't calculate, 9 out of 10 times it relates to the celestial court. As for Tian Hao, he was, after all, from the beginningless, while Yuan Luo was entirely cultivated by the Chenkuan sect, unrelated to the beginningless. The others also smiled approvingly at Yuan Luo, becoming more and more satisfied with him. Hearing the hierarch's inquiry, Yuan Luo's face turned grim, and he said through gritted teeth, "I was defeated by someone whose cultivation wasn't even higher than mine." The hall fell silent with this statement. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. A.